day in the desert as the Sox are on the road this afternoon to take on their AL Central mates, the Cleveland Indians in Goodyear. Spring training baseball is brought to you by Canals Auto Park. Jason Benetti, Steve Stone with you once again. And as you look at the Sox building their roster right now, there's one hot spot in the field to take a glance at, and that's shortstop.
It's a classic case of youth and exuberance against craft and guile, because Jimmy Rollins has been around seemingly forever in his 16th year. Tyler Saladino trying to make the ball club. And look at the numbers, because they're very similar. The one biggest difference is slugging percentage. Tyler Saladino has it all over Jimmy Rollins, plus OBP, on base percentage, also a number where Saladino excels. So this is going to be a big outing for him. He's starting at shortstop, and then we'll see what happens with both Jimmy Rollins and Tyler Saladino.
Well, the shortstop position is pretty locked up for the Indians. The young man Francisco Lindor, who caught your eye last year.
Francisco, one of the best in the business, second in the Rookie of the League balloting behind Carlos Correa. This guy actually can do it all. He's a terrific fielder. He can hit the ball from both sides of the plate and hit it with authority. You look at some of the defense, he will make the spectacular play. He will make just about every routine play. And he burst on the scene, and the Indians knew he was going to be a star. They didn't know when, and he appeared in just 99 games last year. So this is a guy that is going to be there for quite some time. You look at what he did last season in those 99 games. He hit .313, 12 home runs, drove in 51. You can understand why the Indians are excited about this young man, and they can't wait for the season to start.
The Indians will have the right-hander Carlos Carrasco on the hill today, a guy that the Sox have hit pretty well historically.
Carlos Carrasco has very good stuff. In fact, last year struck out over 200 men. He was 14-12 for a team that was only one game over 500. So the Indians were not overwhelming, but that .363 earned run average, and look at all those strikeouts. Correa, a remnant from the Philadelphia Philly trade that sent Cliff Lee there. He's a good one.
It is Carrasco on the mound today for the Indians. He will face Scott Carroll for the Sox, and first pitch is coming up. Another perfect day for baseball in Goodyear as the Sox battle the Cleveland Indians. And we tell you about the Sox starting lineup, which on the roster this spring, the Sox have 16 players to hit home runs out of 29 homers. And here is that starting lineup. Adam Eaton once again in the 1 position. Austin Jackson in the 2 spot with 12 at-bats to his name so far. Jose Abreu has torn it up this spring all the way down through Frazier, Cabrera, and Laurie to J.B. Shuck, who's back after an illness yesterday. Saladino and the start from Omar Narvaez.
Let's take a look at the defense and how they're going to line up behind Carlos Carrasco. It's Michael Brantley in left field, and Tyler Naquin in center, and Marlon Byrd, the venerable Marlon Byrd in right. Then it's Uribe, Lindor, Kipnis, and Aguilar in the infield. Yan Gomes looking for a bounce back here behind the plate, and Carlos Carrasco on the hill. One of the mainstays of this rotation, young, hard-throwing right-hander this year, his 4th start. He's 1-1 ERA and even 2, and no walks and 10 strikeouts in 9 innings. Pretty impressive. So Ryan Goodman will take over behind the plate. There's also Alan Porter and Quinn Wolcott as we once again try to get it done with 3 umpires.
And 3 straight wins for the Sox. Whether there have been 4 or 3 or 2 umpires, you just call your own strikes.
I'm playing good solid baseball, especially in the pitching department.
29-year-old Carrasco with strike 1. And happy birthday, by the way, to Carlos Carrasco. A couple days ago, Clayton Kershaw had a birthday against the Sox. Today, Carrasco. 1-strike pitch to Eaton is bounded to second base. Jason Kipnis has no play.
This is why if you have some speed, you have to make contact. This time a little tapper turns into gold. That sinker biting away from Adam. He was able to extend the strike zone, just tap it over the head of Carrasco, and after that, no chance at all for the Chicago area product, Jason Kipnis.
Well, the Sox got a .355 on base percentage from their 1 spot last year, which was well over the league average, and Eaton is on against Carrasco here in the first. The offense has been the story so far this spring, with 29 home runs, tied for the 2nd most in baseball, as Jackson, who was added to this roster just a couple of weeks ago, in his 13th at bat. Oh, and 2 from Carrasco.
Pretty good fastballs. He really hasn't shown you a whole lot of that straight change, which he has. He's got a good hard-breaking slider. Probably wants to wait here in spring training to feel a little bit better before he breaks out his entire repertoire.
Throw to first on Eaton, who's 1 for 4 in stolen bases this spring.
Yan Gomes, one of the better throwing catchers around. If you give him a shot, he's probably going to nail you at second.
100% healthy behind the plate for the Indians. The Sox will see 19 times this year. Sprayed foul by Jackson. Austin Jackson, former Detroit Tiger, former Seattle Mariner. Two strikes from Carrasco. There's that slider from Carrasco, strike 3.
Two-strike pitch in a perfect spot, and because of the tight spin on the ball, you can't recognize it as a slider, and that one there's not a whole lot of people in this league that are going to hit it.
See how Abreu fares. 14 out of 33 this spring for Jose Abreu, who just hits wherever he goes.
With the Indians, it is going to be a battle at third base. They did acquire Juan Uribe. He's taking over third base today. Giovanni Urshela, who they figure is going to be their third baseman of the future, had a pretty decent year last year. And we'll have to see who emerges as the everyday guy, as we see Cleveland very early in this season. In fact, the second series of the year, home against the Tribe.
Very first home series of the season coming against Cleveland. 1-1 on Abreu. There is our old friend Juan Uribe.
Very popular player when he played for the Sox. They just absolutely loved him in the clubhouse. He has a lot of fun playing the game, and he can still throw the ball across the diamond with as good an arm as anybody in the game.
Sox and Indians last couple of years, 10-9 last season, and then that rather memorable in the wrong way, 2-17 and 13. Ball and a strike from Carrasco. Testing the inside corner and missed.
Anaheim is trying to measure that lead at first base, see what he can see as a key from Carrasco. Getting a good lead. In fact, so much so that Carlos decides to chase him back.
Rather shorten that up. Sox are just 8 out of 18 so far this spring in steals. Jacob May has 4 of those 8. The reserve outfielder. Abreu fouls that off himself. You could hear the anguish from Abreu downstairs.
Off the left foot. No protection down there. And he's not feeling real good right now. We'll take another look at it. You've got to have quick hands to foul the ball off your foot. He does that. Might have gotten maybe a little above the foot. Hopefully he's okay, and it appears that he is, as Brian Ball accompanied Robin Ventura out to the mound.
And Abreu's going to stay in on 2-2 from Carrasco. Eaton, extra half step on the lead. He holds, and Abreu grounds it foul, just foul. Saw the arm of Uribe in play.
If that ball is fair, he's actually going to throw Abreu out at first base. But Jose gets another life. This one just missed. It's a slider that Carrasco didn't throw particularly well. Uribe right there to make the play. And Joe McEwing right there to avoid the collision.
Well, Joe's got a new hip, and Uribe can put you down on the ground.
Yeah, I'm not sure you want to collide with that wide fellow at third base.
Pitch number 6 coming for Abreu. Fouled away again. He kind of hopped through that swing. Maybe still feeling the effects of the ball. He fouled off his lower ankle, top of his foot.
Against the Indians, the 11 home runs, the most against any opponent. Lifetime 312, 25 driven in. It's pretty impressive in 35 games.
Sox had 19 homers against the Indians last year, their most against any club.
Somewhat surprising in that Cleveland's pitching staff was outstanding. And at times they had an overwhelming bullpen. But yet, probably got a little careless at times with the fastball. Last year, Sox 10-9 against the Tribe, so they fared fairly well against the first winning year they've had in the last 3 against the Indians.
A lot of hard throwers on the Indian staff. A lot of strikeouts last year, and sometimes you run into one of those, and the exit velocity is in play once again.
They've got some just great arms and guys with great stuff. Corey Kluber had some physical problems last year that they didn't elaborate on, and yet it really held him back. Former Cy Young Award winner Kluber, an excellent pitcher, just 9-16.
3-2. Eaton is off. Kipnis got the tag and the double play. Nicely done by Jason Kipnis to finish the Sox off at 3 batters in the first. The Indians will swing when we come back. Easy suntan day here in Arizona as the Sox and Indians hit the bottom of the first, and we tell you about the Cleveland starting lineup heads down by Terry Francona. Jason Kipnis off the top, then Lindor, who we told you about in the 2 position. Michael Brantley back from a shoulder injury in the 3 spot. Aguilar, Gomes, and then the veterans Marlon Byrd, Juan Uribe, Will Venable, Tyler Naquin, a young center fielder they like. That's not.
In the defense, and now the lineup behind Scott Carroll, left to right. It's Melky, Austin Jackson, and Adam Eaton in right field today with Fraser, Saladino, Lowry, and Abreu in the infield. Omar Narvaez behind the plate, and Scott Carroll on the hill. On for his 4th game, his first start. He's trying to make it out of the pen. He can give you multiple innings out of the bullpen, so he becomes a valuable man.
First pitch, a strike to Kipnis. So how do you deal with that as a spring training player when you're starting and relieving? What's that like?
Well, I think he realizes that he would be an emergency starter in a pinch. If he's going to make this ball club, it's eventually going to be out of the bullpen. But he has the advantage of being a lifetime starter, throwing multiple innings. So he can save a bullpen in a game when your starter gets knocked out early. You just have to make sure you're stretched out enough, and this is one of the ways the Sox are going to do it. Get him multiple innings today.
2-1 on Kipnis, who's 8 out of 34 this spring.
Another method to the madness. 2 of the mainstays stayed back at camp and pitched. I'm pretty sure Robin and Rick Hahn did not want to show them to the Indians in spring training, and that was Rodon and Quintana, I believe.
It is, yep. Played it perfectly. Saladino's right there next to the bag, and 1 down.
And so in not wanting to show him the 2 guys for 40% of the starting rotation, they decided in this game to throw Scott Carroll. Interestingly enough, the Indians didn't choose to throw Carrasco in a B game or in an off field. They chose to run him right out there.
Robin Ventura said that most of the work from now on is going to come on the major fields for those guys. This is one more B game, and then to the big time. What'd you call it, the back lot earlier?
The back lot.
Movie set.
They've got 7 fields to work on. There's no end of facilities as far as both the Dodgers and the Sox are concerned in Glendale, Camelback Ranch at Glendale.
Here's Lindor, 2-0 on the 22-year-old shortstop.
He can steal some bases. He showed that last year, along with, if not surprising power, probably surprising in that 12 home runs in 99 games is pretty good.
He was something of a haphazard thief a couple of years ago in the minors. He was 30 out of 51 in stolen bases, but that's kind of the point of the minor leagues, figure out the timing.
And because some of my best friends are haphazard thieves, I feel a kinship to him somewhat. I think he's going to get a whole lot better at that thievery, however.
Remind me to decline the offer of any dinner party invitation, or at least leave my wallet in the car. 3-1 on Lindor.
I would like to thank you yesterday for...
You can thank me today for yesterday.
No, I will not do that. But yesterday, you broke out the wallet. The moths did have a tendency to waft away, and you paid for dinner for both of us, which was very nice of you.
A blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. Abreu on to first, 2 down.
Pretty much you're telling me I shouldn't get used to that, then.
I'd have to save the money, depending on how many rickshaw drivers end up in front of us.
Yeah, that was
the way out of the parking lot.
A harrowing sight, but only your cat-quick reflexes allowed you to emerge, and our rickshaw, or whatever they call it, a bike ped, something along those lines.
Handsome cab?
Well, he wasn't that good looking, but it was an interesting scenario as we were bearing down on him as he was trying to cut across traffic. But all's well that ends well.
Here is Michael Brantley. Barely ended well. Brantley back from the shoulder injury. Saturday was his first game. The ultra-talented outfielder for the Cleveland Indians, who seems like he's on track for opening day.
He can do pretty much everything. An outstanding fielder. Stole 15 last year. Hit 15 last year. That's home runs. Drove in 84. He's really the heart and soul of this order. He's just gotten better and better with each and every year, coming over as the last remnant of the CC Sabathia deal with the Milwaukee Brewers. At the time, Matt Laporta was supposedly the key to that deal. Didn't work out for Laporta, but Brantley has been a mainstay. He can play any field you want him to play and swing a real good bat. Right or left-handers doesn't matter very much.
Outside, a 1-2 on Brantley, who Terry Francona described his rehab as that he attacked the rehab, meaning Brantley, who had the surgery in November, back and ready already at this point is pretty impressive.
Well, in reading all of the magazines and all the evaluative tools against or with the Cleveland Indians, they all questioned if he'd be ready for the start of the season. I don't think anybody was sure that he was going to be ready in spring training, and most likely ready to go. Now, will he be able to throw? They don't really know. They do know that if he has to DH, they have to have his bat in the lineup.
Labrum tear that he's coming back from. They shift him to pull on the infield, and that misses from Carroll. 2-2. Well, the headline news for the Sox today, pitching-wise at least, is Eric Johnson was optioned to AAA Charlotte, so that's one competitor off the board for that 4th/5th starter position.
And we're going to do a ball game tomorrow, and it's going to be Matt Latos pitching.
On to second, Brett Lowry from the outfield grass. We'll tell you more about that coming up after this break. We call that a tease. No score after 1 in Goodyear. It's a banner day here in Goodyear. You know that? It's the first time we get a chance to chat with our Dan Hayes. Hi, Dan.
How's it going?
Good. White Sox reporter extraordinaire for Comcast, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, and then we'll talk about Eric Johnson. You touched on that a little bit. And
yeah, but first I want to ask you why you bailed on us yesterday.
Hey, man. Head cold.
Head cold.
That's
what it is?
It's what it is, man.
So we're calling it on the injury report?
It's sidelined me for... I'm day-to-day. I'm recovering, but I'm still day-to-day.
Safe to assume you will not break Ripken's record?
Oh, no. Not a chance. But as you guys touched on, Eric Johnson was optioned to AAA Charlotte earlier today. We got a chance to talk to Don Cooper just a little bit about what he has done this spring, and they're very pleased from the front that Eric Johnson is really in a great place. You know, he's fully recovered from that 2014 season. They're happy with where he is in his head. He feels good about where he is. The one thing that Don Cooper did say was that the fastball command is not quite where they want it to be right now, and I know that the velocity was down a little bit too.
Lindor.
But beyond that, they're happy with how he was with his other pitches. He was commanding everything else. The fastball command is not quite there, but at the same time, this is really about Matt Latos. That's what Coop said. That's the guy they're looking at right now. They clear the path for both guys to kind of build up for the season and get ready. And Matt Latos obviously makes his first Cactus League start tomorrow.
We're going to be doing that game on Comcast where Latos will go to the mound. His biggest problem has been during the course of his career getting the ball over the plate. The stuff has always been there, and hopefully, because there's a desperate need for a right-handed starter, Matt can spin a pretty good ball game and then carry it over into the season as number 4 or 5, whatever it is they want to use him.
And absolutely, I mean, that is a great need. And you look at what he's done in his past, and if they can get anything back to where he was just 2 years ago, their rotation's pretty sharp.
Whenever you can make a fairly low-budget gamble like they can with a guy that has a good arm and a lot of experience, it's worth the gamble, not spending that much money on him. And so whatever happens out of spring, if he carries it over into the year, Rick Hahn will have done a nice job with that.
Absolutely. Matt Latos earlier in the spring talked about how he's pitched on those backfields for a lot of these games and how he's actually really enjoyed working with Don Cooper because in a lot of the situations where it wasn't a minor league game, where it was simulated, Coop would challenge him with a different thing every day. You're going to throw 15 pitches this inning, and we're going to pretend like it's 0-0 every time. And what do you want to do there? Throw strikes. And Latos said he really enjoyed that for the backfield, where it obviously can be a little bit, you know, there's no atmosphere, there's no fans, there's no music. It's obviously quite different than in games.
Carrasco, this one turned on by Cabrera and down the line. Frazier on his way to third. Melky looking for 2, and he's in there standing up. Well, keep you, Dan Hayes. You good luck.
Yes, you've proven to be an offensive reporter.
That trend continues.
We're going to be fine. And there's Melky turning on an inside fastball. This is really a great sign because Melky normally has pretty quick hands. Last year, the slow start. This spring, it hasn't been brilliant for him, but showing that he can turn on a Carrasco fastball is pretty good at this stage. The Sox have to have him getting off to a fast start.
And starting on the left side, too. That was that issue early on where he just wasn't hitting. I think he was 4 for his first 50 last year, something along that line. He definitely recovered towards the end of the year, but that start was uncharacteristic for his career numbers.
Second and third, nobody out for Brett Laurie. We're joined by Dan Hayes. You can follow him on Twitter at CSN Hayes. You saw it popped up off the score bug, so we're giving you more love today, even though you jumped out of town on us yesterday. First pitch of ball.
Not going to live that one down.
No, and there's no residual bitterness at all. We don't want you to feel that way. So we're going to welcome you today with open arms, with good stuff on Eric Johnson. We hope and root for Eric Johnson. He's a good kid. He really has to get his consistency, location with the fastball down. If he can do that, he's got a chance to be here and be pretty successful, I believe, in the major leagues. He's through what he went through, coming out the other end, and I think he's going to be a better person and better pitcher for the struggles that he had a couple of years ago.
In all seriousness, too, I love reading your stuff, Dan, and I know you were on the animal beat about a week ago, right? You were on the Cespedes beat?
That was some of the most interesting. That feels like a month ago now.
Yeah.
It's obviously with Deoner Navarro, his Yoenis Cespedes, there was the big flap over the pig he bought at the fair there in Florida, and Cespedes, it was said a day later, was sent into the butcher. And Deoner Navarro obviously has a micro pig,
RBI ground out here for Laurie, 1-0 Sox.
I shouldn't say obviously has a micro pig because that's a very strange animal to own, but he has quite a few guys like that. He has a chinchilla, he has a dragon, a bearded dragon, he had a French bulldog, a cat. He has this wild collection of animals, and the best quote of the whole thing was, I asked him, is this pig headed for the butcher? And he said, no, that pig, and by the way, the pig's name is Sassy. He said, no.
Sassy the pig?
Sassy the pig. Sassy is going to be treated like a frickin' princess in his house.
Not as good as Arnold, but Sassy is okay, and I doubt if you want to butcher up the bearded dragon.
So the RBI ground out for Laurie, and J.B. Shuck will bat. He was a little bit under the weather yesterday, as we heard.
Yep. Scratched from lineup, and Viciel Garcia out for a second day. He had the wrist yesterday. Today, he went and had a root canal.
Did he really?
He did. So he's expected back in the lineup tomorrow. Robin Ventura said unless something, he's had a couple things pop up, and he hopes nothing else happens. It would not be good to go from wrist to root canal to whatever's next on that.
Yeah, the third one on that list is real tough.
Nice to see JB back in the lineup. This is a better team with him coming off the bench, filling some spots. He can play just about each and every position in the outfield, and he can hit off the bench. Hitting the setup men and closers late, something he did pretty well, and that's a very difficult job.
We talked a little bit maybe off camera about what the bench would look like, and he's definitely one of those guys that could be there. There's a mix of 5 guys, it looks like, for 2 spots. 820 OPS off the bench last year in 50 plate appearances. Overall, the offensive numbers are not great. But when you look about that's pretty good numbers.
2-1. Over the mound. This is trouble. Lindor on the move. Got him. Nice play. Cabrera to third. 2 down. Well, Dan, pleasure to have you. Certainly enjoy reading your stuff. You can follow him at CSN Hayes. And now we're even after yesterday, and we'll get rolling. Hope you feel better, honestly. Hope you feel better, and we'll talk to you very, very soon.
It's spring training for everybody, man.
That's right.
Yes.
That's exactly right. Dan Hayes joining us, CSN insider for the Sox, and does some great stuff on the web covering the Sox. Always at the facility, always reporting and getting new information on micro pigs for you. That was a tremendous story. Dan Hayes.
He's leaving now. Do we have to boil his chair because of the disease that he had that kept him from being 100%?
I think it's a good idea. There's a vat of disinfectant that has appeared outside of our booth. Oh, and 1 to Saladino. Rolled to Kipnis. And the Sox strand 1 over at third. But back-to-back hits to begin the inning, and a Laurie RBI groundout. Sox with some situational hitting to the first run today. Stoney right there. Enjoy all the benefits of being a White Sox season ticket holder by purchasing a full and split season plan. Great locations are available now. Don't miss out on the live action at U.S. Cellular Field this season. To purchase a full or split season ticket package and to view a full list of all season ticket holder benefits, visit whitesox.com or call 312-674-1000 today. 312-674-1000 or whitesox.com.
And I know you can't get enough of those bottle balls, so we'll try to have a couple of set up for the season.
Yeah, please do. What a visual, right?
Yes.
0-1 on Jesus Aguilar. And a fly ball to the right-hand side that Adam Eaton watches fly away. Aguilar, 25-year-old first baseman with some power. 6 out of 32 thus far this spring.
Last year hit 19 in AAA at Columbus and came up to the Indians, just 19 at bats. He was held homerless, but he does have some pretty big pop. And the question is, with Carlos Santana now most likely due as a designated hitter most of the time, does Aguilar fit?
Center field, Austin Jackson in a hurry to the track. Nice play. Veteran center fielder hauls in out number 1.
And for our viewers, get used to this because you're going to be seeing one of the best around in center field. Austin gets good jumps. He's able to run down the ball alley to alley, this time going right back to the fence at the 410 mark. And we've talked about the high sky. However, there is some news here in Arizona. Wispy clouds in attendance today.
The rare cloud in the sky. Here's Yan Gomes, the catcher. That may not have been a spectacular play. It was not a spectacular play, quote unquote. There was no dive, there was no jump, but it was dead center, solid center field.
And again, with high skies here in Arizona, any decent outfield play is a good play. This is the toughest place to play outfield in the major leagues.
Why is that? Just the sky, is it?
Yeah. Well, light air, the ball seems to travel. A lot of outfielders play actually with their ears. They can hear the sound of the ball off the bat and pretty much judge where it's going to go. In Arizona, you just don't get the same feeling for it, Jason, and I think that a lot of people are fooled here because the acceleration going out into the gaps and over their heads, a lot of times they just misplay balls that they won't misplay when they head north.
So you're saying the contact here sounds soft, but then the ball flies more than expected.
Exactly right. It just doesn't seem to coordinate with the depth of whatever line driver fly ball comes off the bat.
3-1 to Gomes. You're a fan of his. You like the way he plays.
I really do, and he's one of those guys that is pretty much a team leader as well as being the catcher. You'd love if your catcher is one of those guys. He's out of Brazil, Sao Paulo. And last year, because of a terrible knee injury that he suffered early in the season, he never really got on track. Hit .231 in 95 games, and he can do a lot better than that.
Get a look at Todd Frazier. This is the 4th ground ball on a 5 outs for Scott Carroll so far.
That's what Scott has to do because he's not going to ever be overpowering. He's got to keep the ball down, hopefully get ahead, but you know, the good thing about a sinker is most guys hit the top of the baseball. When they do that, you're going to pound it right into the ground. So watch the movement, and it's late movement. It kind of disappears. And Gomes hit the top of the baseball. A very easy play for Frazier at third base.
24 pitches from Carroll. A couple of 3-ball counts so far, and Marlon Byrd cracks this one to center. Jackson has to play it off a bounce. First hit this spring from Marlon Byrd, just recently signed. He's 1 for 4.
The Indians thought that the extra outfield position would go to Lonnie Chisenhall, but he hasn't had a good spring, and with that in mind, they plucked up the veteran Marlon Byrd, wherever he's gone, he's hit the ball. And the Indians hope that not only is it a good insurance policy, but they got a guy who can play 90 if he's needed, maybe 100 games, but he will give you a pretty good bat.
Former Jimmy Rollins teammate in Philadelphia, Marlon Byrd. Now Juan Uribe. Strange to see him wearing that uniform. Just a little bit.
He's worn a whole lot of uniforms, but what he has done through all of the incarnations he's gone through is give you a real steady effort in the field and get you occasional big hits. See what he's done as a member of the Sox. He was one of the most popular players when he was inhabiting their clubhouse, and nothing's really changed for him.
Rockies, Sox, Giants, Dodgers, Mets, Braves, Indians.
He's played in 3 World Series.
He's on the Giants plan in 05, 10, and 15. The Giants are more often than that. They usually pick the even years, not the nickel years.
And gets you a few extra bucks, certainly. He's been around a while. Marlon Byrd has been around seemingly forever. He started, Marlon Byrd did, in 1999 at Batavia. Still going.
How about this? Juan Uribe's first full season team, the Asheville Tourists, in the Rockies farm system. He was playing with Matt Holliday and Juan Pierre, and there's a struggle on the left side of the infield, which is going to be rather rare this season.
That's going to be E5, and as soon as Frazier had to give ground, then it became problematic because I don't think the ball bounced as high as he thought it was going to. You see the last hop here, and it just ticks off the end of the glove. He can't corral it. He's pretty much hoping that Byrd decides to stray around third base. He doesn't, but that's the only play he's got left, and Marlins stayed right there. So runners at the corners, the inning's still alive in this 1-0 game.
There's nothing worse than a stray Byrd on the base path.
He was thinking about that.
That's just the 11th error of the spring for the Sox.
It's been a radical departure defensively for a team that at times had some struggles last year. But one of the things that you knew when you bring in Frazier, you bring in Austin Jackson, Brett Lowry to a certain extent, that this is going to be a better defensive team. And Saladino or Rollins at shortstop, they're going to be pretty good.
0-2 on Venable. Frazier 19 errors last season with Cincinnati.
Not a bad year, actually a pretty good year, and he's got very good range and a strong arm.
Talked about it a little bit before. He grew up as a shortstop, can play outfield, or at least has previously. He was a pitcher for that Toms River, New Jersey team that won the Little League World Series when Todd was 12. He was the heartthrob of that team. He was like the front cover guy for that Toms River Little League World Series team.
It's exciting. I actually had a chance to broadcast one game the year that Kirkland, Washington won it, and that was in a year when the divisions weren't divided, where you had to win through the international to get there. It was just the luck of the draw. There wasn't an American division and a world division then. The kid by the name of Cody Webster, who weighed knocked at the door of 180 pounds, threw great, very exciting.
2-2 on Venable, who's at 160 this spring, 4 for 25. Byrd at third, Uribe at first on a double and an error, with the Sox leading on an RBI ground out from Brett Lawrie. 2-2 from Carroll. Just missed.
He tried to get that sinker in the neighborhood and make it tantalizing enough that Venable would expand that zone.
That's close, Steve.
Good pitch. Didn't get it. And now Uribe will be going.
Full count pitch. Spoiled by Venable.
The radical shift leaving just Todd Frazier as the lone defender on the left side. And as you can see, Lowry is just about as far back as you'd want to be in short right field.
Another payoff pitch. Hit hard, speared by Abreu, inning over. Jose Abreu saves the day, 1-0 Sox. Along with you in Goodyear, Sox leading 1-0, and we are joined by the first-year bench coach for the Sox. Rick Renteria is downstairs. Hi, Rick.
Hi, guys.
How's it going down there?
Doing well. Everything's going great.
What's it like for you getting to know this team in your first year down there?
It's like anything. You come in and you kind of take it slow. Make sure you're just keeping your eyes open and observing as much as you possibly can, and then chime in when it's appropriate, with ask, and or if you feel strongly enough about certain things, you go ahead and chime in. But it's been really, actually, these guys have made it very comfortable for me to work in my first year here with the White Sox.
Rick, a lot of our fans out there don't really know the division of labor for the coaches. What's the leading attribute of a bench coach, and what can he do for his manager?
Well, I think it's like anything. We try to make sure that we filter through a lot of information. We communicate with all the coaches. Robin's always in there, and we're talking and we're going over different things just to make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of how we're going to attack a particular game plan, defensive schemes, what have you. And it's just, a lot of back and forth with information so that we make sure that we're in a good position to give ourselves a chance to win on a nightly basis.
That one eats Kipnis up, and Narvaez is safe to begin the third. Your experience as a manager, how does that alter what you do as a bench coach?
I don't know. It might give me a little bit more insight. A lot of times you're anticipating a lot of different things. I just want to obviously be a sounding board for Robin, because he's going through the ball game the whole time, and we're all basically trying to do the same thing. And as you prepare for a series or a game, believe it or not, it kind of seems kind of choreographed, because you have a good idea of how things might play out, and you have different options available to you when you want to make changes.
Take a look at the Sox this spring and their body of work, which is a small one, but obviously it's what you have in the spring. What jumps out at you about this particular 2016 incarnation of the White Sox?
Well, I haven't been privy to the previous clubs, but as far as I'm concerned, this year there's been a lot of hard work going on. The guys are really energized. They're having a lot of fun coming out and doing their work. I think they're applying themselves very well. Honestly, I think they're trying to take in the information that we give them, and they're trying to better themselves to give us a chance to win this year.
When you talk about the information that you're giving players,
sure,
what's your contribution there? What information are you sending along?
Well, you know, I think a lot of it's going to be just simply any tendencies other guys might have, things that we get from information from the top, you know, that's filtered down to us. We always, all the coaches are always looking at a lot of video and trying to see if we can pick up any little thing that will give us an edge. Obviously, the players are the ones that are going to apply the information, but you want to make it as simple as possible. You don't want to bombard them with a whole lot of different things. You want to give them certain keys that they'll be able to use, and the process is the same whether you're coaching or managing. I think we all do the same thing. We've all at some point probably managed or coached in the minor leagues, and coming up, I've done the same thing in terms of gathering information.
Ball, no strikes on Austin Jackson. We're joined by Rick Renteria from downstairs. What are you looking for from a player psychologically in spring training? What do you want players to take from this month?
Well, I want them to be, first and foremost, more concerned about just playing the game. I think we get concerned many times in different situations where we become very selfish. I think this club and the players that are here right now are being selfless. I think they're trying to take in information that'll allow them to play the game. We want to look at players that want to play the game, not be selfish players, and just do what's necessary for us to try to win a ball game on a daily basis.
I think Todd Frazier was being a little selfish trying to get your camera time, standing right in front of you down there.
Yeah, he was.
There he is. He's always in the picture, isn't he?
These guys are awesome. These guys have been great.
Well, with the ball club and knowing it's getting later in the spring, do most hitters feel at this point that they're ready to go, and most pitchers think they need maybe a little bit more?
You know what? I think everybody's different, depending on where you're at in your particular situation. But I think everybody understands that we're coming to a close. I mean, we got probably about two weeks left, and everybody knows we're nearing the beginning of the regular season. I think they're notching it up a little bit. I think everybody's trying to clean up things that need to be cleaned up, including us as a coaching staff. And I think we're trying to head into the season with a positive attitude and try to hit the ground running.
2-2. And swing and a miss from Jackson. Strike three. Rick, thank you very much for the time downstairs. And say hi to your best friend, Todd, for us.
I will. Thank you, guys.
All right. Rick Renteria, first-year bench coach for the Sox, joining us from inside the dugout. A wealth of knowledge down there, Rick Renteria.
He's a terrific guy by anyone's standards. He certainly was helped being able to become a manager with the Chicago Cubs, even though it was a lot briefer than he would have liked. But he had a tendency to make changes if a guy the caliber of Joe Madden comes along. I think Rick was unhappy only in that he didn't have a chance to impart his vision of what he wanted that club to be. Snap throw, and it gets away.
Bounced off on the middle infield toward right, and Narvaez hits second. He's back in off the throw from Gomes.
Gomes has a strong arm. This one not one of his better throws, but he drops to a knee, and Narvaez, really being a slow-running catcher, is not going to take off and get taken out of the inning. Certainly not with Abreu at bat. That wouldn't be advised, and wisely he held up at second.
Carrasco to Abreu. Got another one.
There was another factor bringing over Rick Renteria, and it's really going to help this year, and that is he speaks Spanish. He is the lone coach that does that. It's one thing to talk through an interpreter. It's another thing for someone to just talk to you in the language you're most comfortable with. Rick can do that, and I think he's going to be a great addition because he has a wealth of knowledge as far as just baseball is concerned. He spent a lot of time in the minor leagues trying to get the opportunity to get here. And now that he's here, it looks like, at least in a coaching capacity and maybe a managerial capacity down the road, he will stay around Major League Baseball for a long time.
What language are you most comfortable in?
I actually am. I was most comfortable in French and German until they threw me out of both in high school.
Strike 3 on Abreu as Carrasco took something off. Leadoff error, no harm done. The Sox hold a 1-0 lead after 2.5.
Sportsnet and the Blackhawks for social media night this Tuesday as they take on the Dallas Stars. Interact with CSN all game long using hashtag HawksTalk. For your chance to win big prizes, coverage starts Tuesday at 7 o'clock on CSN Chicago.
That is hashtag big game, by the way. 4 points separate the Stars and the Hawks in the division.
For placement at this point, they're pretty much all big games.
Scott Carroll pours in a strike to Tyler Naquin, the center fielder for the Indians. Did you see what happened with Reimer Liriano yesterday of the Brewers?
I did not.
Got hit in the face with a fastball, multiple fractures, in the hospital. Nice spear again by Abreu, who's been up to the task twice in the last 2 innings.
I don't think it's ever a good time to suffer any type of injury at all, but late in the spring, it's not something that any player enjoys unless it's really a short injury where you can come back quickly. That's a tough one.
Yeah, it was one of those fastballs came up and in. Here is Kipnis, who bounced out to shortstop his first time. There's ball 1 as Scott Carroll makes his way through inning number 3, and Matt Lawless scheduled to throw next. Scott Carroll, former quarterback in his college days, ended up playing at Missouri State as a starter, and his first school he went to, he was at Purdue. He was blocked at Purdue because Kyle Orton was the quarterback, so Scott Carroll ended up having to transfer to Missouri State to play starting quarterback. And the Sox have a history of dealing with quarterbacks.
Joe Burchard, before mentioned Scott Carroll, Josh Fields, Clayton Richard, and Kevin Smith. Some pretty strong college programs represented by those 5.
Tapper to second. Laurie coming forward. Low throw. Got him. 2 down. You said early Scott Carroll needs to get those ground balls, and he certainly has today.
He's thrown the ball very well. He's given up just the one hit. There was an error behind him, but he was able to pitch over it, retiring Venable. But when Scott is doing what he's doing today, it's hard to even hit fly balls off him. And today there's been a couple hit hard. That double by Bird was crushed. A long fly ball by Aguilar. But other than that, everybody hitting the ball into the dirt.
2 down for Lindor. There's a breaking ball, strike. Maybe a dark horse in this possible 5th starter race for a start at some point during the season. Scott Carroll, maybe he wouldn't break the club.
Yeah, I don't think he'll break in that role, but the great thing about him is, number one, he never complains about what he does. Number two, he accepts whatever it is that comes along, and he can always be ready to start a game. That's a very comfortable man for the organization to have around, certainly for Robin Ventura, Don Cooper. They're very happy with Scott's efforts. And you root for a guy like that because he doesn't have overwhelming ability. I mean, that's relative. Overwhelming, yes, because he's here in the major leagues. But overwhelming ability overall, he's got to work very hard for everything he's achieved in the game. And those are the guys you really root for.
Lace to left center, and a base hit for Lindor, who is 1 for 2. Second hit for Cleveland. Sox fans, opening day Friday, April 8th, 3:10 p.m. against these very Cleveland Indians. All fans 21 and over get a 2016 White Sox magnetic schedule presented by Miller Lite, the original light Pilsner and official beer of your Chicago White Sox. Purchase your tickets today by visiting whitesox.com or calling 866-SOX-GAME.
One of the guys that probably going to get a whole lot of play with the Indians is a guy that the Sox don't necessarily like to see, and that's Rajay Davis. And he's got a chance to play a whole lot of center field for this team before it's over.
Runners off, pitch to strike, throw by Narvaez, got him. Lindor cut down, and Brantley will have to take his swings in the 4th. 1-0 Sox. Omar's arm on display. By Jim Thome here in Goodyear. How are you, sir?
I'm great. How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Good.
Doing great. What do you think of this club so far?
You know what? It's exciting. You know, we got a lot of players here that are very hungry. You can feel it, you know, in camp from day one. I think as it started, you've seen the energy, you've seen the excitement, and it's been great. It's been a great spring to watch it all unfold, for sure.
And one of the guys that has had a terrific spring, and you know all about him because you've been down there.
Yeah.
And that is Matt Davidson. Tell us a little bit about what he's done to try to make more contact. And look how he's looked all spring long.
Well, I think the biggest thing, as any guy that can hit the ball out of the ballpark, you want to get to a point where you feel comfortable, and I think Matt is feeling that this spring. Watching him take BP, his early work, how he's gone about his work has just been fabulous. Me personally, I've had a chance to go down the last couple of years and watch him, and you know, the thing that's impressed me the most about Matt is mentally he stayed there, you know, even through some tough times. To me, he's been the same guy through it all, and it's exciting to see him have a wonderful spring, and hopefully he can keep soaring and keep going.
You mentioned his early work. What have you seen in that work that makes you think this is moving forward this quickly?
Well, to me, I think in watching him this spring, the way he's keeping his head forward and the way the ball's coming off his bat to right field, that tells me he's on the baseball, he's not pulling off the ball, and he's always had tremendous power. But I think the biggest thing is, as you know this, Steve, I mean, any big hitter, any big guy that's got power, when you can stay through the middle of the field, he's hit some balls to right field for home runs. And I think when you're doing that, you have to keep your head good. You have to keep it still. And all spring long, I mean, to me, that's been the biggest thing, is he's been really good with his head, and he's tracked the ball very well, even with 2 strikes.
You were a guy that used the opposite field and could drive the ball to the opposite field as well, maybe as anybody who ever played the game. It seems like power hitters are normally pull hitters, where slap hitters are usually off-field hitters, and then they have to acquire the skill, whatever it is they're lacking. How do you convince a young power hitter who's dominated every level he's been that you have to use the other field, because most likely they're going to be staying away from you in key situations?
Yeah, and the biggest thing I think in that is make sure you have plate coverage, because once you lose your plate coverage, you know, for me, I never tried to hit the ball the other way, but by having plate coverage when I was a little behind or a little late, I never really thought about hitting the ball the other way. But what happened is, by getting that plate coverage, it helped me to be able to, the angle of my bat, be able to go that way. But let's face it, most power guys, as you said, think about hitting the ball through the middle of the field and getting a ball that they can pull. And Matt has been, I think, in reverse, where he's getting his plate coverage, but he's feeling very comfortable going to right field right now. For me, that's what I see.
And Jim, why don't you tell our viewers what exactly your title is and what are your responsibilities?
Well, I'm the assistant to the GM. For me,
Melky Cabrera.
That was loud. Nice.
Gone.
Nice. That sounded good.
Not
Brings
to a
you
pitcher,
chills. I love it. You know, what I'll do is, when our club, Steve, when our club is home, I'll go to the ballpark. I'm up there with Jerry and Rick and Kenny and Buddy, and we talk ball. We talk about our club. We talk about the guys in the minor leagues, and then about once or twice a month, I'll go out on assignment. And wherever they send me, my assignment is to go out and help our young guys and come back and report kind of what I see. And, you know, and the majority of it, to be honest, is positive. You know, you see our guys, you see those guys down below, how hard they play, how they want it. That I call it the eye of the tiger in the minor leagues. And, you know, for me, it's exciting. It gives me that feel for still being around the game, but it also, they're very good about letting me be around my son and watching him play a little bit too. It's at home.
Well, Tim Anderson is one of the guys that everybody's talked about. He's had a pretty decent spring. When you look at him and you see the development over the last couple of years, what are you seeing?
Well, I'm seeing a guy that's got great confidence. I think TA is a kid that, you know, his confidence is high. He's improving defensively. The one thing that I noticed, the biggest thing, is with 2 strikes, he is a tremendous hitter with 2 strikes.
Laurie the pop out to first and 2 down.
Which, you know, let's face it, when any player gets 2 strikes, the biggest thing you feel is anxiety. You know, I did it. I mean, we all feel. You were a pitcher, and you could probably feel when you got 2 strikes on a guy, anxiety sets in. Tim Anderson, to me, is in reverse. He actually calms the game down, which I think is a big trait to him. He definitely, which I think is going to help him as he grows into a major league player.
Where do you think that comes from with him?
Well, his background, confidence, believing in yourself, and not getting down. Understanding that this game is a roller coaster, and you're going to have those ups and downs. And you know, but it's got to come internally. You have to believe that you're a good player, even though you're going bad. You go through those down times, or when you get 0-2 quickly, he feels like he's still going to get hits, and that's what impressed me the most.
What was the toughest time in your career? That moment where you had that type of feeling?
Early on defensively, playing third base, you know, was very erratic, throwing the ball across the field. And then Buddy Bell, ironically, who's here now, Buddy was probably the biggest influence on me defensively. We worked and worked and worked, and then I think mixing in Charlie Manuel from the hitting side, what he did for all of us there in Cleveland, especially me personally, then I started seeing my confidence grow. Got moved to first base, which was kind of the way it was going to be. You know, we got Matt Williams that 1 year, and then obviously I moved to DH. But I would say just believing in yourself and understanding the way the game is, the ups and downs, and all the hard work you go through.
J.B. Shuck, a single with 2 down, and up comes Saladino.
Jimmy, think about the great teams you were with Cleveland. I mean, you were with good teams a lot of different places, but those teams in the mid-90s in Cleveland, I mean, talk a little bit about what it was like going to the ballpark every day and absolutely knowing that your team was better than whoever it was you were facing.
Well, we had a special run there. It really was. I mean, looking back as that run was going on, and you know how we all pushed each other, and you have to commend John Hart, Mark Shapiro, Dan O'Dowd, what they did, the teams that they put together from a speed, contact to power hitters in the middle of the lineup. You know, it was a lot of fun. I'll tell you, going through that and feeding off of each other. You know, when 1 or 2 guys would get going, the other guys would get jealous, not in a bad way, but we all wanted to do well. We all wanted to be a part of the group, we called it. And it was just so much fun looking back. I mean, I learned so much from a lot of great hitters, and you know, just being in that lineup was so special.
Shuck steals second, his second stolen base of the spring.
Some of the people don't know how that team was made up. Tell us a few of the guys who played there and how devastating you guys really were.
Well, we had Lofton, we had Vizquel, we had Baerga, we had Eddie Murray, we had Paul Sorrento, we had Sandy Alomar, we had myself at third base, we had Albert Bell, and we had Manny Ramirez. And in a lot of those lineups, I joked today, Manny and I would hit 7th, 8th, 6th, and 7th, depending right-hander, left-hander. And that's what I'm saying. You had no time not to work, not to pay attention to detail, because we had guys in the minor leagues that were coming up. The Richie Sexton, Brian Giles, Sean Casey. You know, I was at first base early in spring training looking back going, geez, I mean, you know, I better keep performing here because these guys are behind me coming quick. But we all loved each other. We were all brothers. And,
Saladino to left field, and this ball is off the wall. Shuck scores. There's the power again from Tyler Saladino.
I might have to stay on the air here for a little more, you know?
We'll keep you around.
Good.
Yeah, things working out pretty well. 3 hits and a couple of runs so far this inning. And Saladino is doing what all young players have to do when they're not assured of a spot. Yes. And that's really grinding this spring. He's had a terrific spring, done a great job of it. And it's the ideal situation, I think. You have a guy in his 16th year in Jimmy Rollins and a youngster just in the infancy stages of his career.
No doubt. And I played with Jimmy. I call him J-Roll, but I had the opportunity to play with Jimmy in Philadelphia there, and what a great leader. I knew when we signed him it was going to benefit Tyler immensely, no doubt about it.
How do you think that will help him? I mean, you've been a veteran with a younger player before. What do you try and do in that situation if you're the older guy?
Well, I think you know, it's kind of when an older guy comes in and you have a younger guy, I think it's your role model duty to give back to the game and to talk about whatever it is, defensively, offensively, and you know, it was done to them, so I think in return you give that back.
Who was that guy for you?
Brooke Jacoby, Sandy Alomar. You know, we had, you know, watching a guy like Albert Bell. Albert didn't talk a lot, but watching him work, watching his work ethic, and watching him perform. You know, I mean, watching him through clutch situations be that guy, we all wanted to follow that.
Jim, you're going to stick around for
I'll stick around, yeah.
Great. Jim Thome will hang around with us. Sox lead 3-0 off the Cabrera homer and Saladino double. From here in Goodyear, Jim Thome, Steve Stone, Jason Benetti along with you, and we're reminiscing about one of the most difficult lineups to deal with in human history that you were a part of with the Indians and joined the Sox, and certainly a wonderful career.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to talk with you, and some of those things that you were talking about with younger players and how you impart that to them. What do you do right now with the Sox, and how do you approach finding out what really makes guys tick?
Well, I think you got to get to know them. You got to understand their work, what they do as far as their work ethic, how their routine is. I always say you never want to come in and just, you know, give a guy a lot of information. I think you want to observe, you want to watch, you want to get to know the guy, and then, you know, and then understand what makes him go. You know, sometimes if a guy mechanically is a little off, you know, you sit around within our coach's room and we talk about it, and then also, like, you know, just being there from a positive end. I think the game is it can be so negative, the roller coaster ride of what you go through offensively.
Talk about hitting into the shift. Brett Laurie in right throws out Brantley.
I would say the biggest thing is understanding the person, and then from there getting a game plan, and then going in and also, you know, knowing how the approach is as well.
This is a highlight reel effort. Brett Laurie getting it, throwing it.
What a play.
And we're seeing more and more shifts. Now, I know they shifted on you a lot. They couldn't really shift in the outfield. They just about all shifted in the infield. When did you see that really start to become a defensive alignment that most teams were using instead of just occasional teams using it?
Well, Art Howe was the first one in Oakland that did it on me, and I always joke with him, you're the one that started this whole thing. You know, and then I would say towards the end of the 90s, into the 2000s, it was pretty much every team did it. But, you know, I tried not to really pay much attention to it. And, you know, if I was on the plate, so, you know, like a lot of guys pitched me in, and, you know, against lefties, I would try to shoot the ball through the middle the other way, but mainly my job was to try to get a ball and drive it and hit it hard.
This one well hit to left center field. Austin Jackson is there on Aguilar. 2 down. Who was the guy that you really had great success against, that maybe you're surprised that you had great success against, and who was the guy that really owned you when you were playing?
The guy I would say that I had success that I never thought I would was Verlander.
Yeah.
And I would say the other one, which he owned me, was Jesse Orosco. He would come in and own me. I mean, he would throw those sliders, and I kept swinging at him and swinging at him and swinging at him. But, you know, early on, Randy Johnson was very intimidating. I never really played a lot against him till I got a little older in my career. But, you know, I always admired Kenny Lofton for the way he stood in on Randy Johnson. And there were a lot of good ones. There were, you know, Clemens. I had some success off Clemens that I never thought I would. But I never tried to think about it too much. Just looked for number one and tried to be aggressive.
Is that the overwhelming philosophy of most hitters? You're going to look for a fastball, the pitcher's hardest fastball, and adjust on down? Or do you ever look for a breaking ball and then try to react to the fastball?
Well, it depended. For me, it was. I wanted to know velocity, and I wanted to know what his out pitch was going to be against me, not necessarily against a guy that was a right-hander. I tried to do my homework and study what was he going to try to get me out with, and with having the plate coverage that I wanted to accomplish, then I took the thought process out. I stayed on the fastball, and then if there was a hanging breaking ball, by staying on the fastball, I was going to, you know, at least give myself a chance to hit it. I would never hit a good breaking ball. Nobody does. No. So, you know, I think the biggest thing is sometimes you can clog your brain thinking about too many things when the main thing, when you step in the box, I want to compete against him. I don't want to worry about where my hands are, where my feet are. I wanted to do all that before, put myself in situation, in a position early on with my work, and then I wanted to compete against the guy on the mound.
Well, I think if you're thinking about your mechanics when you're in the box, you're defeated already.
Yes.
Because obviously that's for backfields, practice time,
sure,
pre-game prep, whatever you're doing. But you go up there and you know what that guy's going to do to you, and you have a pretty good idea what you'd like to do to him, and then you have to figure out who's best in that given at bat.
Yeah. And on my drive into the park, if we were facing Verlander, I already had in my mind what he was going to do to me because I had success, because I had the bats facing him. And then once I started to have a little success on him, then I needed to figure out, okay, what might he do to me tonight that would be different?
Well, the numbers say Rick Reed.
Rick Reed was another one, yes.
Clemens, eight home runs against Clemens. You could hit a fastball, couldn't you? Clemens, Verlander.
Some days, I guess, yeah.
Few Cy Young awards in that particular group. Not necessarily Rick Reed, but the other guys have
the other two were pretty darn good.
They were pretty good as well.
I'll never forget a night in Minnesota. Verlander dialed it up on me one night and struck me out 3 or 4 times in a night, and that was he was sitting at about 96 to 98 on me, so he got back at me.
Full count from Tommy Kahnle to third. Nice pick by Frazier to retire the side. Great insight. Thanks for joining us, Jim Thome.
Thanks, fellas.
Absolute pleasure to chat with Jim Thome here, and we will be back for the 5th. 3-0 Sox. something to tell us?
Yes, tonight the Bulls' fight for the playoff continues as they take on Boogie Cousins and the Kings at the United Center, starting at 6:30 and streaming live on CSN, Chicago.com, or on the NBC Sports Live Extra app. Apps are my life. Brought to you by Xfinity.
Spinach and artichoke dip, potato skins. Those apps are your life.
And there you see a guy that loves to go to the mound, and that's Brian Shaw. He is, if not the most durable, one of the most durable pitchers in all of baseball. And last year, no exception, 74 appearances, his ERA 2.95 and a 3-3 record. So Shaw, along with Cody Allen, two of the better setup and closer combinations in baseball.
224 appearances the last 3 years for Brian Shaw.
It's pretty astonishing how often he'll run to the hill.
Eaton on the ground is short, and Lindor for the first out. Customize your own Pick 7 or Pick 14 season flex plan. Today, the Pick 7 and Pick 14 plans feature savings off individual game tickets. For tickets or more information, or both, visit whitesox.com or call 312-674-1000. It is a scorcher today, Stoney.
It's supposed to go up to 95, and then in the ensuing few days drop down a bit, but this is awfully hot for this time of year.
It is a snow cone day out there.
And there was a wedding on the field before the game.
I mean, that... Hello, sir.
There's an Indian fan who is deeply into this game.
Dreaming of a central title.
Everyone's hopes are alive in the spring. You haven't lost an official game yet. You hope that injuries haven't overtaken your ball club. And at least for the Sox, this has been a pretty healthy year. I talked with Herm Schneider about it, talked with Brian Ball. They're pretty happy from an injury front how things have gone. And we'll try not to jinx ourselves with that, because staying healthy is one of the keys. You can have as good a team as anybody in the league. Nobody is that deep where they can overcome really meaningful injuries to key players.
Well, the numbers bear it out. I mean, it's empirically proven that Herm Schneider and his staff have done over the last decade plus the best job in baseball of keeping people healthy.
Alan Thomas, the strength and conditioning coach, one of those guys. We mentioned Brian Ball before, but it's just a great training. It's a great staff as they work together to keep everybody on the field.
That ball is ripped by Austin Jackson for a one-out single. By the way, that guy that was sleeping,
yes.
How tired was he when he got here? It's the 5th inning. I mean, it's not that deep into the day.
Well, bear in mind, if you're an Indian fan, they've got 2 hits and no runs. I would say that somewhere along the line they will wake that fellow up, hopefully before the end of the game, because, you know, Cincinnati does play here also, unless he just wants to change his T-shirt and put on a Reds T-shirt.
Gotta be awake to change clothes. Here's Abreu. I was talking to Jose before the game. With that game coming up, the Rays are playing in Cuba tomorrow.
Yes.
Talking about the 1999 game when Peter Angelos brought the Orioles to Cuba to play. And Abreu said he remembers it very vividly that the day before that game, his father went out and bought a television. As Jackson gets to second base, he went out and bought a 22-inch television just to have it to watch that game in Cuba. That's how much that game meant to Abreu and the folks in Cuba.
Well, Tampa had to win a lottery to go over there, so they chose from a number of different teams who would want to go over there, and then who got a chance to go over there. It is fairly historic, and I think they're going to get a look at some very good players. We'll see how the particular thawing, at least, of relations will affect players coming to this country to play.
Tough breaking ball there to Abreu, 1-2.
Good hard slider by Brian Shaw. And that one just disappears. You can't really hit it out there. You just have to try to lay off. and hope that he makes a mistake if he goes back to the same pitch.
Busted him inside and missed. 2-2 on Abreu. You like the sequence there?
I think so, especially with a smart hitter, and Jose is that. It's nice to push him back off the mound. I don't think he wanted to throw that for a strike, but I just was thinking that he wanted to make sure that at least he changed his eye level and got him off that pitch blown away so he could go back to it here.
Left it over the plate, and Abreu whacked it foul.
Well, there's an example of hanging a slider and getting away with it. Normally, when Jose is in midseason form, you're not going to do that. But he obviously wanted this as the wipeout pitch blown away, and it just spun inside. So like a hanging Chad, that was a hanging slider, and it didn't mean quite as much as the last time.
Nearly needed a recount.
Yeah.
Jackson at second off of the wild pitch. 2-2 for Abreu. Beautiful outside corner, strike 3.
That time looking for the slider, it appeared that he got the fastball away, and Ryan Goodman rings him up. See where Gomes sets up. And if anything, a cutter type of movement, but not really a slider. Plenty of speed on that.
So 2 down for Frazier, who singled and scored back in the second. 2 batters later, he came across on the Brett Lawrie RBI ground out. Big rip. Slugged nearly 500 last year with the Cincinnati Reds, coming over in the offseason trade.
Melky Cabrera in the on-deck circle, and we talked about when he doubled in the second inning how impressive it was for him to get around on the ball inside. To do that and keep it fair, you have to be right on everything and seeing the ball well. So that inside fastball necessitated Carrasco to try to make an adjustment. He did with the breaking ball and went out of the ballpark.
A long way.
2 pretty good at-bats by Melky, and that's an excellent sign. 1 fastball, 1 slider, and both scalded.
Two and 1 to Frazier. A little bit late, 2-2. Two in the fourth, 1 in the second for the Sox, trying to win their 4th in a row. Two. That one is through. Base hit for Frazier. Jackson scores, and the Sox are on the board again. 4-0.
That's a 5th driven in this spring for Todd. And that's been one of the things that we've noticed in the games that we've done, and this is the 5th one we will do this spring. And that is that the Sox are coming through with a lot of 2-out RBIs. This one taken right back up the middle. Todd able to stay back on an off-speed pitch. And they did shift as a dead pull hitter in the infield, and that one scooted through.
So now Melky Cabrera, who last time up on 1 and 2, went deep to right field.
Melky got that slider. It came in rolling, and he just hit a rope out of the ballpark. Everything Sox here today.
In a prelude of that first home series, Sox will be in Oakland for 4, then a home for Cleveland for 3, then on the road again. You got to pack doubly there in Minnesota and Tampa. That second road trip.
We just hope to get those games in Minnesota. There is an off day after opening day against the Twins.
Cabrera the opposite way this time at Brantley. And that'll do it for the Sox in the 5th. They tack on one more. Frazier drives in Jackson. 4-zip. Needs to hydrate in this heat. Sox fans celebrate a special birthday or anniversary or even host a business function in a Diamond Suite at a White Sox game. Diamond Suites can accommodate groups from 10 to 100 guests, and single game packages include a great food menu as well as beverages and parking passes. To purchase, visit whitesox.com/group. Sox keep hitting like this, you're going to want to bring more than 100 to the ballpark.
Good day so far with 4 runs on 8 hits. Both teams have made an error. The Indians have scratched out just 2 hits. So very impressive trip to Goodyear so far.
Defensive changes for the Sox here in inning number 5.
Former tribesman Jerry Sands in left field, and Carlos Sanchez checks in at third base.
Marlon Byrd doubled his first time up. That was against Scott Carroll. Here his opponent is the right-hander Tommy Kahnle. When Marlon Byrd made his debut in the majors, he was a couple years after Jimmy Rollins, but Jimmy Rollins was the leadoff hitter the day Marlon Byrd came into the lineup with the Phillies. The Sox shortstop who is not playing today.
That was 2002 where he made his major league debut. Little did he know at that point that he would be what is termed a well-traveled veteran. Washington in 2005. Then he was with Texas in 2007. The Cubs in 10, 11, 12. Boston in 12 before the Mets and Pittsburgh, back to Philadelphia, and on it went.
That's a lot of acclamation to a clubhouse.
There is no doubt, but the one thing I learned from a veteran player, and it was pretty interesting, was I asked him how you could go from an everyday player to a guy who doesn't play all that much and stay ready.
3-2. Up high, ball 4, first walk of the game for either team.
That player said to me that the key to excelling in any role is first accepting the role. So if you get frustrated because you're no longer an everyday player and you're aspiring to be that everyday player, and they keep on using you as a swing man in the outfield, as a guy that comes off the bench as a pinch hitter, you're not going to be able to excel until you have full acceptance. And as you get older and realize you're not going to play every day, guys spend a long time in the major leagues like Marlon Byrd because they begin to accept that role.
He's at first, and here's your Uribe. Takes ball one. Birthday boy tomorrow, Juan Uribe. There's Matt Perk tuning up for the Sox.
One of the very highly thought of recruits when he was drafted number 1.
That is the large swing we've come to know and love from the former Sox.
And not much adjustment as far as pitch to pitch for Juan. He doesn't leave anything to the imagination. He just airs it out. That ball disappears, blown away from him.
Towering pop-up. Sanchez watches it fly away. Saladino joins the party. He does have some fun playing the game, though, Juan.
He does that, and he would have liked that one if it had hung a little bit lower, but it hung high enough so that he couldn't get a real good piece of it. And there you look at the closer of the Indians, Cody Allen. He's got unbelievably good stuff.
Sox saw Kenley Jansen the other day from the Dodgers bullpen. Indians tee up their closer. Swing and a miss. Canely goes out of the zone to get the Sox first pitching strikeout today.
Not a bad idea against Uribe to go out of the zone because he has a nose-to-toe strike zone. So we saw it here. Swings at a pitch up and out of the zone, and now swings at one down and out of the zone.
Pretty good movement there from Tommy Canely.
It was. I think his stuff is pretty good from what I've seen of him this spring.
Late of the Rockies organization, Tommy Canely. Here is Venable with a Sox shift to pull on the infield. And while we're at it, in the outfield as well. Scott Carroll started the game 3 innings, just a couple of hits, and no runs.
Scott looked very good. Didn't strike out anybody. Didn't have to because the sinker was outstanding today. Didn't walk anybody.
Ball and a strike on Venable. One of those veteran players vying for a spot with the Indians, can play some outfield. And again, you said it earlier with Rajai Davis, a possible center fielder for this team, still trying to work out the kinks in the outfield for the year. Especially with the struggles of Lonnie Chisenhall this spring, just one for his first 21.
A lot of people felt that the Indians had the pitching to go all the way, and they wondered if they were going to make any type of moves over the winter to add a meaningful bat to this lineup. But the Indians, a low revenue team, decided not to do that. Maybe to go with some younger people and bring in some veteran players that might help them as they mix and match with these guys in head-to-head matchups against certain pitchers. But bringing in that star or trading for that star is not in the cards for the Tribe. And as you can see, home runs, team lows. The White Sox, the lowest. Kansas City, who didn't seem to have any trouble winning, right there at 139. And the Indians, 141.
4 of the 5 lowest home run totals in the American League from the Central last year. You believe that's going to change for at least a couple of those teams.
I certainly believe it's going to change for our Sox as far as as far as that goes. As far as Kansas City is concerned, they don't play in a ballpark conducive to hitting the ball out of the ballpark, nor do they have to hit the ball out of the ballpark to beat you. So I don't think they're going to jump up and become a power hitting team anytime soon.
Runner holds, and a foul by Venable. Bird left late there, and so he'll go back. Looked like he wasn't going to make his way to second, then got a delayed jump.
Venable has occasional power, his best power year by far. 22 home runs with San Diego in 2013.
(3-2) from Canely. Sprayed foul one more time. It'll take an 8th pitch to Venable. Former Princeton basketballer Will Venable, back in the mid-2000s.
Max Venable, his dad, appeared in 727 major league games, so fairly good baseball lineage for Will.
That's outside from Canely. 2 walks in the inning for the Indians, trying to score their first run.
It's going to bring Robin out from the dugout, and he's going to go to the pen. So for Canely, that's going to be adios. And Robin has enjoyed some excellent pitching over the last 3-game winning streak, certainly, and carrying on over to today. So Matt Perk comes in, and we'll step out and be back after these messages.
U.S. Cellular Field for his 20,000 fans Saturday, April 9th. Get a White Sox winter hat presented by Comcast Sportsnet, a must-have for your ice fishing kin. Visit whitesox.com to purchase your tickets today. That's opening weekend, Saturday, April 9th.
That is a handsome hat, and if they ever do Fargo 2, you can use that hat in it. As we look at Matt Perk, he comes into ball games, had a good spring so far. As a left-handed pitcher in this game, if you can get the ball over the plate and stay healthy, you can usually stay around once you've established yourself. And Matt Perk would certainly like to do that in 3 innings. 5 strikeouts and a walk, that's not bad. And he inherits Indians at first and second, and only 1 out as the Sox cling to that 3-run lead.
Staying healthy has been the issue for Matt Perk in the past, with the elbow injury coming through the Nationals organization. This is inside to Naquin for ball 1.
That's probably the most frustrating thing for any young player, any player at any stage of his career, but especially a young player, where it's injuries and your body that inhibits you from establishing yourself or doing what you'd like to do. Because you can feel decent about getting hit. Maybe your stuff isn't good enough or whatever the case may be. If you have the opportunity and your opponents just beat you, that's one thing. When your body doesn't allow you to get the opportunities, that's where the real frustration sets in.
Two and 0 from Perk. That's upstairs. So how do you handle that mentally when it's just not doing, your body's just not doing what you want it to do?
Well, it's pretty difficult because the reason why you're a professional player is that your body has allowed you to excel at a lot of different levels. Suddenly you get here and for whatever reason your body says, sorry, we can't do it. And how do you handle that? It's not easy.
4 in a row out of the zone. They're loaded on walks for Cleveland here in the 5th.
Sometimes you'll have some very understanding coaches who will empathize with you, and pretty much they try with younger guys to say, look, eventually you are going to heal. So the rehab has to be intense. When you heal, then you'll get your opportunity if you have the talent. And then, again, you have to accept that. Because when you try to rush through things or maybe cut your rehab short or any of those other things that young pitchers will do to make sure that they get somebody to notice them, that's when the injuries really start to pile up and eventually things don't go well for you.
Bases loaded for Kipnis. Strike one. When Matt Perk was going really well at TCU, his second to last season at TCU, 34 walks, 142 strikeouts. That's a large number. Kipnis helps him out, 0-2.
This is where you have the two choices, and you can pick whatever's most comfortable, and that is face-high fastball. The best Kipnis could do is pop it straight up. Or you want to gamble again, gamble that your catcher is going to be able to block the ball in the dirt and go right back there with a similar pitch to the last one. I prefer at 0-2 to use a pitch you can get him out on, the wipeout pitch again, but you have to have supreme confidence in your catcher.
He did bury a breaking ball. It's 1-2. Infield plays Kipnis to pull, and he goes that way with the foul ball.
Kipnis a couple of years ago was absolutely lost. He was hurt, and then he couldn't get his stroke, and it was just for him a very frustrating year. He bounced back last year, hitting .303, played in 141 games, and he was the Jason Kipnis that we've seen since he came into the league with the Indians.
Well, it looks like Perk's not afraid to throw that breaking ball to Narvaez. 2-2.
No, he's thrown a couple in the dirt. He's blocked them both nicely, including this last one, as we show you. He moved over, put the glove down. Your intention is not necessarily to catch the ball, it's just to block the ball, and he was able to do that.
Set up outside, 2-2, missed.
There's their sensational young shortstop, Francisco Lindor, who will turn around to face Perk.
3-2 with one down, bases loaded. Could be two. Laurie, Saladino, they'll get one and trade the out for the run. Bird scores.
It looked like ever the slightest bobble as far as Laurie was concerned, and by the time Saladino came across the bag, Naquin was right down on him, and so he couldn't get the throw off. The Indians do get on the board without the benefit of a hit, and Kipnis drives in run number 8 this spring.
Well, with that new Chase Utley rule in effect, we'll see a lot of plays at second base this year. How much do you think it changes the mindset of the base runner this first season?
I think the base runner
change.
Yeah, I think when they install a new rule, I think the umpires will have a tendency to call it more than they will maybe 3 or 4 years down the road. So I think for the base runner, you just have to start your slide before the bag.
This gets another one home. Lindor plates Venable. And the pinch runner, Jose Ramirez, to second. It's 4-2.
The 2 walks come home to roost. Don Cooper going to the mound to talk with Matt Perk. I think that rule is going to save a few knees in the middle infield. As you've got to start your slide on the first base side of the second base bag. You can't intentionally go after an infielder. You have to be able to be in the neighborhood of the bag. So is the interpretation of the second base umpire. They will not hesitate to call you out, and a game ended yesterday on a situation like that with the Pirates.
It's against the Blue Jays, right?
Yes.
Pirates, Jays. Francisco Lindor, you look at the WAR number, 4.6. 21 or younger, fewer than 100 games played. He is tops, even above Carlos Correa. WAR measuring how valuable you are compared to essentially the average AAA, 4A player you'd be replaced by.
Brett Lawrie on that list. Tim Raines, a great one. Willie McCovey. Surprisingly, Willie McCovey on that list, only because he was a dead power hitter. Contact wasn't his long suit, but he could really hit. He was a teammate of mine when I came to the major leagues, and he was feared. He wasn't the only pitcher, only knew that he was a good hitter, but they were afraid that as a dead pull hitter, he wasn't going to pull the ball and hit one right back, hit you in the head.
So that was rolling around in their mind.
Yes. Pitcher came up to him, and I remember Willie said that he wore the guy out, and the guy came up to him after he homered off him in a game the next day at the ballpark a number of times and said, "That's okay. You don't have to worry about that. Just don't hit the ball back to me. I know, you know, don't worry. You hit a home run. That's okay. Just don't hit it back at me."
That's the height of fearsome. Take the runs. Just don't hurt me.
A huge outfielder by the name of Frank Howard was another one of those guys that pitchers felt the same way.
Got a chance to meet Frank Howard a couple years ago. He came through AAA Syracuse when I was there.
He's a huge and wonderful man.
Large and kind.
Yeah.
Large heart. 2-1 on Brantley, who has twice bounced out to second base, where the Sox have him shifted.
Last time he hit it awfully hard, and only a fine play by Brett Lawrie turned it into a 4-3 putout.
Perk pitching him outside there, 3-1.
Hitters are squeezing the sawdust out of the bag, looking for a fastball in this situation.
There it is. He got a very close look at it. Ball 4. Fourth walk of the inning for the Indians, and they're loaded for Aguilar. Pinch runners all over the place. Ramirez at third. Eric Gonzalez pinch running at second base. And the third pinch runner has just come on with the bases loaded. So Brantley, Lindor, and Kipnis are all out of the ball game. Joey Butler is in at first for Brantley. Big chance for Aguilar. And he takes strike one. 4 walks, 1 hit in the inning to leave him loaded. Credit Narvaez here for keeping a couple of balls in the dirt in front of him.
Aguilar hit the ball very well last time, only to fly out deep to center field. Matt Lawless loosening up in the Sox pen.
Errant fastball, 2-1. Saw Matt a couple of days ago. Fouled off hard by Jesus Aguilar.
What little wind there is, and there is very little wind, it's blowing out toward right center field today. That's one of the surprising things this spring. Not the heat, because that happens occasionally, but normally it's fairly windy here in the spring, but this year, not so much.
2-2 hit right field. Eaton going back. He has room. Inning over. Hearts in throats, lead intact. 4-2. Sox. Perk gets out of it.
But it really doesn't matter. As you see, they haven't used him at all to close, and they're going to do that quite a bit because that's what he does. Cody Allen last year, 34 saves, 2.99 ERA, and 99 strikeouts in 69 and a third innings. Those are prolific numbers.
He faces Brett Laurie first, whose RBI ground out in the second cracked the scoring in this game. Defensive changes for you, Stoney.
We have that. We've got Jose Ramirez at second. We've got Eric Gonzalez at short. We've got Joey Butler, the bearded Joey Butler. A new look for him. He's in left field. He can hit, Joey Butler can.
The bearded Butler.
He is that. And you might ask, and I know you were thinking about this, and maybe along with the folks at home asking, why would they put their closer in the sixth inning?
Steve, why would they put their closer in the sixth inning?
Well, funny you should ask, because I was just pondering the same thing, and it's because you want to face the remnants of the major league hitters that are in the lineup as opposed to the ninth inning, which is obviously your save inning if you get that opportunity, but you're facing a lot of guys from Double and Triple A. So first pitch, strike three looking, and there you see the upgrade as far as the infield is concerned. Take a look at what the Sox did last year at second, last year at third, 222, 226 respectively. Take a look at what Laurie did and Frazier did. But home runs, 51 combined as opposed to 19. Runs batted in, 91 as opposed to 149. So huge offensive upgrades. And Frazier is a huge defensive upgrade at third.
And you would imagine as well, those two upgrades go along with really no downgrades at any position offensively this offseason. So that's including the catcher spot.
Yes.
Avila and Deoner Navarro. Ball smoked by J.B. Shuck, center field, and a nice play by Naquin.
You can understand why he is rated third as far as the prospects are concerned in the organization. Naquin, who's had some injury problems the last 2 years. You can see the ability there. But he's got to stay healthy. That, for him, has been problematic. If he can stay healthy, he's part of what the Indians feel is a pretty bright future, along with Bradley Zimmer and Clint Frazier, two of their top 1, 2, and 3 with Naquin prospects.
How about Jim Thome in here earlier talking about the guys, first of all, that he was in the lineup with the Indians. Then he's got Richie Sexson breathing down his neck. The rebuild there was impressive in the 90s and 2000s.
Indians had a pretty strong history of bringing sluggers to the major leagues. They brought a few pitchers, but in those days it was hitters. Manny Ramirez was theirs. Thome was theirs. You know, you have Sandy Alomar, theirs. Now, Kenny Lofton wasn't. He was Houston's. But he was a leadoff table setter and a good one.
Saladino takes down and out from Cody Allen. This spring, 20 at bat, small sample size. His slugging percentage, .850. Tyler said he's been lifting extra.
I think it's pretty impressive overall. He's battling for a job, and outside of that slider, he's done a good job.
He said he was lifting extra because you and I said that we were a little surprised at how far his homer went the other day against the Dodgers. 4-2 Sox. Introduce Sticks and Stone for today. I owe you an apology according to Twitter. You said yesterday that when the game was tied, it was a whole new ball game.
Yes.
And I said, well, it's the same game. A Twitter listener and viewer came to your defense and said, stop criticizing Stoney's phrases. They're great. So I apologize to everybody out there. I will never criticize one of your phrases ever again.
Well, that was my uncle who actually tweeted you. He's been tweeting just a couple of days now, and he's finding that it works very well. So.
I should have known. His avatar, it said Uncle Frank Stone on it. So that's
good.
That's good to know. I wish I would have put the context clues together. So Sticks and Stone is our look at your career through your eyes. You got to tell us how you did against a former player for the team that the Sox are playing against, and Dwayne Kuiper is our guy today. How'd you do against Dwayne Kuiper?
This is a loaded question. I'm very bitter about it. You see that home run total? It's 1. And the reason is he only hit one his entire career, and that was off me. Of course, it was only 3,379 at bat, so he saved it up. And I think the wind was blowing like 90 miles an hour straight out to right field. And that was one of the things that happened.
The rare Major League game played on Neptune.
Jeez, it was just sad. What was even sadder is he came an eyelash from hitting a second one off me in Baltimore.
Hard grounded to third, and a nice pick by Sanchez at the line. One down.
Carlos Sanchez has the ability to play just about anywhere. And anywhere you put him, he's going to give you a great defensive effort. He's newly in the game, pours it across, surprisingly strong arm. And he makes this play by plenty. It wasn't even close at first base.
So one down for Marlon Byrd, who fouls it at the plate. Nice day for Marlon today. A double, a walk, and a run scored. We're going to see, maybe see Dwayne Kuiper tomorrow. I don't know if he's going to be here. Sox play the Giants tomorrow. This ball well struck by Byrd to left center. Off a bounce, off the wall. Marlon Byrd is 2 for 2.
Chris Antonetti probably very happy with the acquisition of Marlon Byrd and how he's looked today. He just crushes this one. This is a fastball. I think Matt wanted to get this ball in a little bit more than he did, and Marlon crushes it.
Sort of like Dwayne Kuiper off of you, huh?
Well, he hit a soft 250 except for that home run. Wind aided. And I thought he corked his bat, and I believe he was taking steroids at the time.
Wow, what things he did to make sure that he hit that homer off of you.
I went and asked his manager, the Hall of Famer Frank Robinson, if he would hit another home run. He had about 3 years left to go in his contract, and he said, not a chance. Not if he was standing on second base. And as it turned out, Frank was a prophet.
Bounce it at third. Another chance for Sanchez on the money. Davidson back across the diamond. Not in time. Colin Cowgill, the pinch runner, over to third.
They got him from the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. A couple of very good plays this inning by Sanchez at third base. You know, when you've got a guy like Uribe running, all you got to do is fake a throw to second base and you'll freeze the runner. He won't be able to advance.
It's Robbie Grossman hitting now for the Indians against Matt Purick, who made his way through the fifth inning. Couple of runs came across. He held the lead for the Sox.
Now the wind is picking up somewhat. Now it is a factor blowing out toward right center field.
First wind, as you said, to speak of this week.
And there you see it. Usually it is very much of a hitter's wind here in Arizona to go with a lot of the other benefits that they do have, which is why a lot of batting averages are way up there in the spring. Cactus League, notorious for that. That's probably the single thing that is most difficult to evaluate, is a hitter from Arizona trying to see how it translates into the season. A lot of guys have made teams only to last sometimes less than a month because of those Arizona batting averages.
That's outside ball four. What is a hitter's wind? What do you mean by that?
Any wind that blows out, if you're not facing a knuckleball, is a hitter's wind, because quite obviously you get a fly ball up and the wind is going to go out of the ballpark. But ironically, when you face a knuckleballer, you want the wind blowing in. You want the wind at his back, because if he has the wind in his face, it takes what is a fluttering knuckleball and makes it move even more. So hitters, when they see the wind blowing out against a good knuckleball pitcher, they realize they're not going to have much of a chance if he gets it in the zone. That is the only time a hitter will pray for the wind blowing in.
Essentially drag on the baseball, is that what it is?
It's just more resistance. Yeah, the wind will catch the seams and make it float and bob a lot more than it normally does.
Bring Bob into this.
Well, speaking of Bob, I'd like to say hello to the Canine Sox Club, currently looking on at this ball game in Scottsdale, Arizona. Bob being one of them. The club has diminished somewhat, but it's Bob and Layla these days. I'm going to bring Bob in and hope he doesn't bite you.
He said, doesn't. That's a win for me. Yeah, this is foul. Very kind of you.
Well, it's the least I could do for you.
I'll get an exotic pet to bring in.
Bearded dragon is a good one.
How do I get the beard on the dragon?
Well, depends on how old the dragon is. Young dragons, no beard.
2 strikes on Naquin, who walked in the 5th and made the first out in the 3rd over to first base. 2 strikes from Perk. In the dirt. Sox will play tomorrow, as we mentioned, back at Camelback Ranch, our 5th of 5 in a row. Sox and San Francisco Giants tomorrow. Then we will be back on the air after that, 2 days after that, on Thursday. Hey, there's the schedule. Angels, Reds, Rockies, Reds. Our final 4. That ball's driven to left. Sands is back, reaching out, and Jerry Sands in left field with a whale of a play. Two homers yesterday for Jerry Sands. He takes away an RBI from Naquin today, 4-2.
Blue Man Group is comedy, theater, rock concert, and unforgettable dance party all rolled into one. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll tell your friends about it. Don't miss the show that's captivated 35 million people worldwide. Dare to live in full color. Dan Otero comes in the ball game.
I was just wondering about that.
You probably ask yourself, what would a Dan Otero be doing in the 7th? He would be on the hill.
Likely pitching. And he throws a strike. Roberto Perez is the catcher now for the Indians.
Otero last with Oakland last year, 2-4. His ERA way up there, 6 3/4 in 41 appearances.
Omar Narvaez with a well-struck ball to left. He singles to lead off the 7th.
Narvaez has had a good game because he's made very good throw to second base. He cut down a would-be base stealer. That's something the Sox are doing a lot more this spring than they did all of last year. And he's hit the ball pretty well.
Defensive alignment has shifted for the Indians in this half inning.
Colin Cowgill has checked in the game in right field with Giovanni Urshela fighting for a starting job at third base at third, and Roberto Perez, the guy that for some reason every time he plays against our Sox hits the ball very hard.
Leury Garcia to left, and he is out here in the 7th. How about David Ortiz yesterday in the Boston paper?
Interesting comments, and I like some of them. David is entertaining, if nothing else, and you can inform our viewers just exactly what he said.
I want to get your thought on this.
Okay.
He said, whenever somebody criticizes a power hitter for what we do after we hit a home run, I consider that person someone who's not able to hit a homer ever in his life. You don't know anything about it, and if you don't know anything about it, shut up. Shut up seriously. If you don't know anything about it, shut up, because that's another level.
Well, the problem is that precludes a whole lot of people in the country from evaluating whether they like a bat flip or not, depending on the circumstances. And I don't believe it's necessarily a viable scenario because you haven't hit a home run. You can't opine on it.
Further, by the way.
Yes.
If you're going to take it like a baby, I'm going to take you deep again. How about that? Take it like a man and make better quality pitches the next time I face you, and then you get me out and you do whatever you want. This is competition. Your thoughts?
Well, I understand it is competition, and he is kind of fortunate that he's using that kind of language in today's game. Because there are a few folks that in yesteryear would have made it a little tough on him.
This is a 4-3 double play. Well done by Jose Ramirez. So the Sox are through in the 7th without a bat flip. Stretch time and Goodyear 4-2 Sox. We invite you to join us at U.S. Cellular Field throughout the 2016 season for free T-shirt Thursday. First 10,000 fans at every White Sox regular season home game Thursday will receive a specially designed White Sox T-shirt. To get your free T-shirt, Thursday tickets, visit whitesox.com. That's where you can get your free T-shirt Thursday tickets at whitesox.com. Hope you can visit. for free T-shirt Thursday. Yankee fan here at Sox Indians.
Yes, but he had the good sense and the foresight to bring his glove, which is a good thing as the ball shoots into the seats.
Maybe
with a lot on it.
Maybe he can defend the gentleman who is sleeping in the 5th inning if a ball comes toward him. Here's Matt Lawless, Steve.
He comes in the game having a pretty good spring. No record, a 180 earned run average. Hasn't walked anybody yet. That's good. And 2 for 2 in save opportunities. He's going to get one here. It's going to be a 9-out save. I don't think that that's going to happen.
Jose Ramirez takes a strike.
Matt, a big man, reminiscent of the days when Bobby Jenks prowled the hill for the Sox.
Ball and a strike on Ramirez. I'll double back on the Ortiz stuff with his comments about bat flipping and saying people don't understand. How many years ago was it that if you say something like that, you catch one in the spinal column?
Probably certainly 70s, 80s, maybe a remnant or so in the 90s. Things have changed somewhat, but Ortiz a colorful character.
Tim Anderson to Matt Davidson, one down.
There just are. There were some players on both sides, whether they're pitchers or hitters or used to sliding hard into second base. There's some players who had a respect for the game. I'm not saying it's wrong or right. They had a respect for the game where they felt that it was okay for you to beat them. It wasn't okay for you to show them up. And so that's changed. I mean, there's a lot of pitchers that show up hitters after they strike them out or get them out to end the game. So, it's not like the pitchers are blameless. They're not. And I'm not going to tell you that it's the best way to go about it and which year was better. Today, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Players are hitter stronger. They're stronger, faster, they're quicker than they ever were before. I mean, they're bigger than they ever were before. So it stands to reason that the players would be better today than yesteryear. But they're not getting enough time or as much time in the minor leagues because of the thinning of talent, where they come up and they don't know, like years ago, how to play the game exactly, so they have to learn in the major leagues. That's why coaches in this era are more important than they've ever been before at any other era.
Those small things, how to play the game. Base running, that ilk.
What to pick up from the other team. What are they going to show you? What pitcher is going to tip off when he's going to throw home, when he's going to throw to first? How to bunt. Both learning how to drag bunt and push bunt. Learning how to bunt for a base hit. Learning how to bunt for a sacrifice. Where to back up on throws coming from the outfield. I mean, tag plays. There's so many things. How to play winning baseball. Knowing when to give up your at-bat for the betterment of the team. Understanding where you have to hit a fly ball and where you have to hit a ground ball. Taking what the other team gives you if they play the infield back with a runner at third and less than 2 outs. Don't go up and swing for the fences. Go up to make some contact. Drive in the run. Essential. I mean, there's so many things. And players do them pretty well at times. It's just they don't have the preparation they used to have. And it's not an indictment of the players. It's just that because of the lack of talent, you see guys taken right to the major leagues after a short period of time, and they don't have all of these instructors showing them how to do it as a professional. Completely different than how to do it as an amateur player.
So for your money, it's less time in the minors that's the issue, not the way youth baseball is or something like that. All the travel teams.
I think
you hear that argument sometimes as well.
I think it's a couple of different things. Number one, they call them showcase players. You teach players how to get the notice of scouts. You're not teaching them how to play the game of baseball. You're teaching them how to excel in a showcase situation so they can get signed. That's number one. Number two, used to be for pitchers at least 400 innings, maybe as much as 600 innings in the minor leagues. Those days are long gone. For a hitter, I mean, Maury Wills was a star many years ago. For those who don't remember him, he was a star with the Dodgers. He came up, starred in the major leagues for many years. He spent 10 years in the minor league system with the Dodgers. Well, that's because they had 24 farm clubs. So you were always striving to make another team, consequently spending time in the minor leagues before you got to the major leagues. And you can certainly learn how to play baseball. If you don't, you never make it. But, 24 teams in minor leagues, we're never going to see anything like that again.
1-2 to Gonzalez. Tailing away into the gap in right center, and a diving grab by May. Oh my goodness.
Jacob May has shown this spring training that he has exceptional skills. First of all, he's going to steal anywhere from 40 to 50 bases. He's going to be able to make enough contact so that speed will come into play. And defensively, this is just a great effort because it's a flat-out dive. He didn't protect himself at all. He caught the ball in the gap, got a good jump on it. What a play.
Off the bat, didn't look like there was any chance anyone was going to get to that ball. As Butler fouls the first one away from Matt Lawless. So a ground out to short starts the inning, then a line out to center, and 2 down with the bases clear for Butler. This is the Chris Kampka nugget of the day, by the way. Carlos Carrasco took a no-hitter into the 9th inning. At one point in his career, Joey Butler broke it up. Carrasco, the starter today for the Indians.
With 2 outs.
2 outs. Ball and 2 strikes. Carrasco, one of like 9,000 players ever traded for Cliff Lee. By the way,
there was a number of them.
If you have not been traded for Cliff Lee, you haven't lived.
No.
Another chance for May. This is a long run, and he will not get there. Butler coasts into second base.
Kevin Cash is now the manager of the Tampa Bay Rays, and I talked with him about Joey Butler. And basically, Joey Butler owes his major league career to Kevin Cash. Because when Cash was still playing, he noticed that Joey Butler could really hit. When he went to the Rays as a manager, he suggested to them, you got to get this guy because this guy can swing the bat. I'm not sure he can do a whole lot of other things, but he can scald the ball, and there you see just an example of it as he crushes it to the gap in right center.
Butler at second, 2 down for Aguilar, who flied out to right fairly deep with the bases loaded to end the 5th and end the Indians' threat.
Narvaez once again with a very good and very impressive stop of a biting breaking ball bounding well in front of him.
What, 6 or 7 of them today, right?
Yeah. He's done a nice job. This has been an impressive performance behind the plate.
Well, we told you about Carrasco being the starter for the Indians today, having been traded for Cliff Lee. We saw Philippe Almont yesterday. It's back-to-back days for us. We've seen a Cliff Lee traded for a player, so we figured we'd detail them all for you. Bartolo Colon on that list. Lou Marson, Jason Donald never really panned out as they expected.
No, but Justin Smoke has cobbled together a pretty decent career after being a #1 draft pick of the Texas Rangers. But when you take a look at the Rangers and the hitters they've developed, they have been an offensive organization. And with that in mind, some news today out of Ranger camp. Joey Gallo, the premier slugger of the Rangers, sent down to the minor leagues, so he's not going to at least break with a big club. And we saw him last year in his major league debut. What prolific power he has. He just absolutely crushes the ball. They'd like to see a little more contact. They'd like to see the defense pick up. But there's no doubt that the potential is enormous for Gallo.
Former first-round pick 4 years ago. Got 108 at-bats worth in the majors last year with the Rangers. Lawless nibbling at that corner. It's 3-2. took the lead in the second on a Brett Laurie RBI ground out. Got a homer from Melky Cabrera in the fourth. RBI double from Saladino that inning as well, and they added one more in the fifth on a 2-out single from Todd Frazier. Payoff pitch to Aguilar, down. 6 walks today for Sox pitching. For a bullpen that has been tremendous over the last 5 days.
For the most part, they haven't been all that generous in the walk department. They've got the 3-game winning streak. And for the most part, they've made hitters earn their way on. Not so today. They scored a couple of runs with only 1 hit in the 5th inning. And here's the guy, Roberto Perez, that for whatever reason seems to really love White Sox pitching, because he's done a nice job against them.
He is the lead run here in the 7th. Yan Gomes went 0 for 3 in this spot with 3 ground balls to third. Lawless now has missed a couple times in a row with a fastball down and out.
Career against our Sox, 318 in 16 games. Now, he hasn't done all that much damage with just 1 run batted in. But 318, pretty strong for a backup catcher.
You know, we're talking a lot about the Sox catching position with Avila and Deoner Navarro. And before the game, I was just looking at the average catcher numbers in the majors. The average catcher hit 240 last year in baseball. Seems a little low, doesn't it?
No, it really doesn't. And the reason is catchers take such a tremendous beating during the course of the year. Now, they're asked to hit just like every other hitter. But every other hitter doesn't take foul tips off their shoulders, doesn't take back swings off the back of the head, foul balls into the mask. I mean, the general beating that catchers take, and they get worn down as the season goes along. So when you find a catcher who can contribute a whole lot offensively, that's absolutely the rarity. If they can and still call a game, block pitches, I call it, you know, they can block it, call it, catch it, and throw it. If they can do that, they're going to be valuable. If they can hit it too, you got yourself a star.
3-1 on Perez. 2 on, 2 out. That one stayed up, and Perez clubbed it to left field. 1 run is in, and that's all they'll get. Perez slides into second. It's a 1-run game.
Told you, White Sox uniform, enter Roberto Perez. He crushes this one as Lawless tries to throw a fastball by him inside. That'll bring Don Cooper out from the dugout. Roberto Perez driving in a run, leaving runners at second and third. And it's now a 1-run game as the Tribe is trying to claw their way back into this.
Sox bullpen entering today the last 19 innings and a third had allowed just 1 earned run. Today, all 3 of these runs have come against the bullpen after a mighty fine start from Scott Carroll. 3 innings, 2 hits of scoreless baseball.
And all this here in the 7th inning happening with 2 outs and nobody on.
Double, walk, double. And now Cowgill will bat in the spot previously occupied by Marlon Byrd.
Lawless has worked hard. This will be pitch number 27 forthcoming.
Two on, 2 out. Cowgill to center. May back, and this one's off the base of the wall. The Indians lead for the first time today.
there's a lot of hitters that after a trip to the mound by the pitching coach, they will look first ball, fastball. And that obviously was a game plan of Colin Cowgill. Fresh off that stint, I believe you remember it, on Saturday Night Live, more Cowgill.
Yeah.
That's the guy.
Sometimes he's confused for the Cowsills as well. They ask him to play folk music at second base. It's a breaking ball for ball one. Giovanni Urshela, the young third baseman, was certainly in the mix in the infield. He's played at AAA Columbus for a few seasons. Juan Uribe got the start there today. In LA Columbus, by the way,
yeah,
where they used to ring cowbells at Cooper Stadium.
Oh, that's
when
good.
The Clippers scored some runs.
I remember the playoffs against Tampa and the cowbells. Yikes.
Ears were ringing for a decade or so.
Robinson, Layer, loosening in the pen. There's going to be a battle at third base to see who is the opening day third baseman between Uribe and Urshela.
Urshela to right center field. This one goes a long way and out.
That will show you one of the reasons why the Indians brought Urshela to the major leagues last year. He's got big power, and here he shows it to the opposite field. It's a rolling slider. Didn't have much bite to it and went way out the opposite way.
For his career, that's home run number 62 if it were to count, which it doesn't. 55 in the minors, 6 in the majors. Robbie Grossman, who walked last time, tries to build on an already tough inning for the Sox. 5 straight have reached and scored since 2 out, nobody on. There's a strike, 2-1.
We'll adjust the pronunciation of Robinson's name. Lair. Okay, that's what they called him here.
2-2. Could go Lair.
Could be.
Like the verb to read.
Depends on where you
Spanish.
put the umlaut.
I don't know that there's an umlaut. That's for our friend Rusty EpiPen. 3-2. Five in the inning. Previously a 4-2 Sox lead has been turned upside down as Grossman catapults this one to left and Jerry Sands to retire the side. The Indians do some damage. They put 5 on the board with 2 out, nobody on, and they take their first lead this afternoon in Goodyear. Join the 2016 Sox Pride Club for exclusive ticket offers and seating locations all season long. Game day opportunities, club auctions, ballpark tours, membership gifts, and more. Visit SoxPrideClub.com to join today.
A couple of changes for the Tribe. One of them is a former Sox pitcher, Felipe Paulino. Not having a memorable spring to this point. And the ever-present Nelly Rodriguez checking in at first base.
So the Indians send out Aguilar, who just hit. He walked. Sorry, that was the home run was from Urshela. Here's Davidson.
Gaudy numbers this spring.
Sizable swing there, 1-1. We were talking to Dan Hayes, CSN insider, about Matt Davidson earlier and his transformation. Jim Thome as well, about Davidson and his turnaround. A lot of insight from Jim Thome earlier today. We encourage you to watch the replay. He was up here in fourth inning.
Yeah, I thought he was terrific. He was giving us a lot of inside looks at some of the younger Sox players and what his responsibilities are. And who better to do it than a guy, number one, who is universally loved and has been throughout his career, and also a guy who hit over 600 home runs and could hit it as far as anybody, especially to the opposite field. I mean, everybody expects a big man to be able to pull the ball, hit it out of the park, but he could drive the ball to left center with the best of them. You don't find many opposite field hitters can hit it longer than Jim Thome could.
Davidson checked it up, and he did go around for strike three, so one down in the Sox. They thought it was really interesting what Jim Thome said about the guys on those Indians teams being jealous of each other in a positive way. One guy would get going, and everybody else wanted to get back there or get up there and follow along. That sounds like what made them the dangerous team they were, just that emotional boost.
Well, they were just devastating because they did have a few guys who could run, and they had a lot of guys who could bang. And I tell you that there weren't many pitchers who had a real good night's sleep the night before they pitched against the Indians, because they were versatile, right and left-handed, both sluggers and good hitters. Just difficult to deal with.
Two balls, no strikes on Carlos Sanchez. He's played a nice third base today in the stead of Todd Frazier, who opened the game at third. Up again, 3-0. Again, that 25th man spot on the Sox roster in terms of that bench player, whoever it might be, is really up for grabs at this point with Adam LaRoche's retirement.
Well, you need, number one, you need an extra outfielder, you need an extra infielder. Hopefully, your swingman in the infield can play shortstop. Because if you can't, then you have some problems and you have to carry a couple of them in case your number one guy gets hurt. Carlos can play all over. I mean, he's shown as a very young player that he can hit some and he can play excellent defense. We'll just have to see if the numbers game catches him or if he can hang on.
Well, the Sox certainly do have two shortstops, and it's pretty much a lock.
Yep.
Saladino and Rollins are both going to break camp with the club. Sanchez here. Jerry Sands is on deck. We'll see who ends up taking that spot for the Sox. A couple of spots. Sanchez, a foul ball. Told you earlier, Eric Johnson has been optioned to AAA, so that fourth, fifth starter spot is in flux as well. Tyler Danish, Steve Lombardozzi reassigned to minor league camp as well. We'll see Matt Latos tomorrow starting against the Giants, another one of those in the running for the back of that starting rotation. Sanchez stays alive. This will be pitch number 7 to Carlos Sanchez. There's Jerry Sands. He of diving catch fame earlier in this game.
He made one of the better catches this spring of anybody we've seen, as did Jacob May in center field. This was a different type of catch as the ball was hit over his head. We will show it to you when he comes up.
If he comes up. Sanchez continues to foul the ball away.
A battling at bat. Tenacious, as it were.
Three and two from Paulino. Another. Sox will see the Indians, as we told you, 19 times this year, including a 3-game set to open the home schedule for the Sox at U.S. Cellular Field. Slap to left, falling, but not quickly enough. Butler's got it. 2 down. Told you Jerry Sands had quite the defensive effort today. It was the offense for him yesterday in the first and the 7th inning.
He got most of this one, a line drive home run, but the second one was a titanic home run. Sands with a pair yesterday, continues his good spring. And just a very impressive catch today. At the time, saving probably a couple of runs.
We have a Twitter question from Matt Brennan. It looks like, what's a better nickname for Jerry Sands, the Sandman or Quicksand?
Depends on how long it takes for the at-bat. Then you'd go with the sands of time.
Like sands through the hourglass. The count is 0-2. Matt didn't give us any third option, though, anything off the board.
Well, that's true, but you have to be flexible.
You can tweet in your questions at Jason Benetti, at Steve Stone. You can tweet at CSN Hayes, too, as we're contractually obligated to say that after how we mistreated him earlier today. Fouled away by Sands. Do you know your Twitter password, by the way? Have we rectified that situation?
Oh, I'm pretty sure. But not exactly.
That in the password world, is a no. On the ground is second. And that'll do it for the Sox. 1-2-3 inning for Felipe Paulino. Bottom 8 coming next. Try with a 3-run lead. White Sox spring training baseball is live with the MLB.com at-bat app. Stay connected all spring with radio broadcasts, video highlights, stats, news, and more. Download MLB.com at-bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your smartphone and tablet. You can watch us. You can listen to Farmio and DJ, or whomever you choose on the at-bat app. Beautiful day here in Arizona.
It is that.
Though the wind picked up to 5 miles an hour, surprisingly.
Howling out to right center.
Here's Robinson Lear.
6-7 record last year in ERA, 4.5. And he was mostly a starter, although did work occasionally out of the bullpen.
Was with Advanced A Winston-Salem in the Carolina League, and then moved to the bullpen with AA Birmingham following that in the Southern League. Did you know, by the way, 10 years ago today, the very first tweet of all time was sent out? You know that? I think you knew that.
I think that I'm just probably getting it now with my acumen. There are the Tweedledees, Twitter handles. That's what they're considered, handles.
If those are the Tweedledees, I don't want to know what that may.
Jason, and I know this is going to surprise you, he is much more adept than I at these tweets. Mine usually go through that clearinghouse in Omaha. His seem to get directly to him somehow. It's still a miracle to me.
Being more adept at Twitter than you is the lowest bar I have ever cleared. 2-2 from Robinson Lear.
Ben Austin behind the plate. So he takes over. Brand new battery for the Sox.
Here is Naquin, who has played the entire game today.
He's got some skills. He's shown to be a pretty good outfielder.
Went after that one, strike 3. He's a Texas A&M guy. I know you watch a lot of NCAA tournament basketball. I know you were riveted last night to the Texas A&M comeback against Northern Iowa.
2 overtimes, and I got to tell you, Northern Iowa was a very good team, and I was surprised at a lot of the outcomes of the game. Xavier got upset by the boys from Wisconsin.
Yes.
A lot of people very happy with that around the Chicagoland and northern areas, but Wisconsin seems to save its best for the tournament for whatever reason.
Last 2 years with Frank Kaminsky getting to the Final Four championship game last season. Texas A&M, I mean, down 12 with 44 seconds to go. That's the equivalent of, what, 8 down with 2 outs, 7, something like that?
It's a long way to come back.
That is not a good feeling in that Northern Iowa clubhouse. This ball's well hit. And over the head of May. That there is a 1-out double. Jose Ramirez in for Kipnis.
I do truly enjoy what they called March Madness. What I like about it especially is the intensity at which each and every game is played, and the fact that the upsets are just spectacular upsets.
It's essentially the baseball equivalent of that one-game wild card playoff.
Well, you take a look at Kentucky being unceremoniously escorted from the tournament, and it doesn't seem to be one overpowering team that you could say definitively this is a team that's going to get there, they're going to win it rather handily. That particular team doesn't seem to exist, nor did they the entire season.
Well, your Kent State Golden Flashes were pretty good in MAC action.
I thought they were grossly underrated.
Yeah. Underseeded at not available. Once the bracket came out.
Yeah, I thought they got the short straw on the draw. Did they win a couple games?
Yeah, more than 0. the belief is. Sox led this 4-0 after 4.5. Indians got 2 in the 5th and 5 more in the 7th against the Sox bullpen. Two and two. Sox will be home tomorrow to face the San Francisco Giants, and we will next see you on the 24th, Thursday, for a game against the Angels. Beautiful pitch. Strike 3 for Layer. 3 p.m. Central Time, as the score bug, as they call it, says in the top left.
Another view of Joey Butler, who had a ringing double last inning. An inning that saw the Tribe with a 5 spot take the lead.
Sox will have the 6, 7, and 8 hitters coming up in the 9th, trying to put together a comeback after 3 straight wins. Cubs, Dodgers, and the A's. The victories came against. Butler was the guy who started that rally last inning. 5 straight reached. Butler's double to center began the carnage. Into center. Butler did it again. Ramirez scores 8-4.
If Butler can secure a spot on this roster, the Indians are going to really like having him around. He doesn't have big power, but he is a very good hitter. Will take the ball all over, and I think they found that out in Tampa.
And for Robinson Layer as well, Joey Butler is not the typical guy you're going to see in the 8th inning of a spring training game. He's got more polish than the average 8th inning Bear.
He's usually one of the starting players. But you got to get every one of your guys a couple of at-bats. You like to see the youngsters, certainly, but there's some other guys that, you know, you got to sharpen up. He's one of them. I think every general manager combination at this point is going through all the evaluation they've had all year, talking about how the team is going to look. Is there an addition you can make before they break camp? Because those 25 spots are very valuable, and there are going to be some teams that, because of players out of options, they will try to get some people through waivers. They won't be able to do that, and then the team will have to decide if they do want to pick this guy up. There might be some trades made late. You look for those real good teams who have a roster where they have some problems.
But well, let me ask you, though, because we've talked so much about clubhouse chemistry and the Todd Fraziers of the world trying to build this clubhouse into something that's in the top level of Major League Baseball clubhouse chemistry-wise. Don't you run the risk of upsetting that by bringing somebody in from the outside?
It really depends on just exactly what type of hole you're trying to fill on your team. If it's construed and you have a team that you believe has got a chance and you have one hole, let's say you desperately need a left-hand hitter coming off the bench late who just can hit fastballs, and there's one of those guys become available, I don't think anybody on the team would be upset if you got one of those guys, because the players know exactly where the problems are. They know the holes that have to be filled, and so even if it's a guy that they're used to, if they have a need for a guy to fill that role, whether it's from the bullpen, you certainly won't find a quality starter late in that scenario, but the bullpen usually, and a hitter or, outfielder, infielder, whatever, but a guy who hits off the bench, I think a team that wants to win is just going to welcome with open arms anybody they perceive is going to help them do that.
With the exception of maybe the guy that's getting replaced, because there's always going to be somebody who thinks he's that guy that's being pushed aside for the person coming in.
Well, years ago on one ball club that I was a member of, they actually pulled a guy off the plane heading north and said, by the way, he had sent his wife ahead with his stuff because they told him he was going to make it. They pulled him off the plane and told him that you will make it indeed, but give her a phone call and tell her to head to the AAA city as opposed to the Major League city. That's tough.
What did he do?
He got off the plane.
That's it?
Called his bride.
Off the bag at third. And into right field. It is 9-4 Cleveland. Tough play for Sanchez.
We're going to probably go with the base hit there. The most unusual occurrence as it goes down the line only to be interrupted by the bag. Actually, pretty good play by Carlos. Bare hand, trying to throw it in the same motion and get the job done, but he threw it high. No chance for Matt Davidson. And the inning rolls along. 2 runs across the plate.
It's a hit and an error together to bring home the run. Got to advance the runner somehow.
Yes,
so
that's true.
Fastball from Layer. That, do you recall that gentleman who was yanked off the plane, how he did that season in AAA?
He actually went on to be a star player. Not that year.
On to first. Inning over. 9-4 Cleveland with the lead. Sox with their last trip to the plate in regulation next.
Around the White Sox head back to Glendale as they get ready for a big spring training test against the San Francisco Giants. Catch every pitch starting tomorrow at 3 o'clock on CSN Chicago. Brought to you by Knaus Auto Park. Very easy for me to say.
String tanning. It's the new fad here in Arizona. Here's Steve Stone's first tweet on the 10th anniversary of the first ever tweet. My heart's at Twitter. And 117 people retweeted that. They love you in Twitter land.
Where exactly? That was really nice. But I did write that in French. I'm surprised that it translates so easily into American.
You knew you're so strong with the French language. You knew how to say a Twitter.
A Twitter
in French.
That's it.
Do you recall? Would you want to translate it for us right now?
Yes, a Twitter. I think it's like consomme. It pretty much is like that in just about everything. Yes.
Like no in Spanish. Jason Coates hitting for the Sox, who led this game 4-0. The Indians have a 9-4 lead. They've scored the last 9.
Coates with some high praise yesterday from Todd Steverson as he extolled his virtues, saying that there's a few guys getting a whole lot more publicity, but that Coates has got a chance to be a pretty good player.
Nice take that time. It is 3-2 on Jason Coates. Coates a drive, and this ball gets foul. Jason Coates out of Plano West High School in Texas, a 29th round pick 4 years ago, who made it to AAA Charlotte last year. He takes strike 3 right here. A nice year in Charlotte. 17 homers, 81 knocked in. And a good hitter's ballpark, that new downtown park they have in Charlotte. Beautiful park for the AAA team down there.
And Marcus Lemon will get his first at bat. Son of Chet Lemon, you might remember him as a former Sox player.
It's good to see Chet at Sox fans.
It was. He was always a delightful guy. He was a teammate of mine and a center fielder who chased down a lot of my mistakes. He was a very enthusiastic player.
Still is very enthusiastic. I was really impressed with his warmth. Everybody that came into contact with him said, what a great guy, what a wonderful person. He did everything we could possibly ask of him. Marcus down the line and foul. Two strikes. Fouls it away. So, you're talking about Chet Lemon.
Yes.
Who was the first son of a former teammate of yours that made you feel really old?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
Because I felt really old for quite some time.
Yeah.
So to narrow
you don't look at it all.
To narrow, yes, that's the obligatory. Oh, geez. Anyway, to narrow it down somewhat, I have no idea. I mean, because you do see a lot of the guys you used to play with, and all of a sudden, you see their sons in the major leagues.
Second base, Ramirez turns a nice play out.
Well, that was a big effort up the middle, especially a guy with the speed of Marcus Lemon. Ramirez can play every position on the infield and play it very well. This time he ranges up the middle, makes the off-balance throw, gets it there in plenty of time. And that's the second out.
Two down. And a bouncing ball foul. What's your takeaway from the early parts of this game? What did you like from the Sox? What didn't you like?
Well, I certainly like the fact that the pitching was pretty strong. Scott Carroll had a good day today. 3 innings, a couple of hits, no runs. And then things deteriorated as we moved along because of some control issues that haven't been present this spring, but were present today. As far as errors, a couple of errors, again, something the Sox haven't done a whole lot of this spring. They did today with a couple of errors. So as things got a little worse toward the end of the game, the first part of the game, once again, this team that had played pretty well over the last 3 games was crisp. They did a whole lot of things right. And you'd have to say that
Melky Cabrera, too.
Well, he definitely was the guy. We talked about it the first at bat, his swing on a fastball inside. Then he hit the home run in the 4th inning. So it was nice to see him hitting his first home run of the spring, driving in a run. And that's going to be such a big factor for this team. They have to get off to a good start, and the schedule is not great in that you're playing 4 games on the road, 3 games at home, and then going back on the road for 6 games. Not a great way to start.
That one dropped in for strike 3, and the Sox fall for the first time in 4 games. Cleveland's bullpen does the trick late in the game. The Indians with some late inning thunder offensively, and they win it 9-4 this afternoon in Goodyear.
So we talked about just exactly what was good in this game and what was not so good that was late. But I think that everybody getting their work, nobody getting hurt, and the fact that Melky Cabrera looked really good today, looked in mid-season form. Hopefully that continues.
Double and homer in his first 2 at-bats. Tomorrow we'll see Matt Latos against the San Francisco Giants. Join us for that. For our director, Jim Angio, our producer, Michelle Godwin, our associate producer, Chris Kampka, our tech manager, Mark Harper, and executive producer, Jim Corno Jr. For Steve Stone, I'm Jason Benetti saying good night from Arizona. You've been watching Chicago White Sox baseball on Comcast Sportsnet.